Now we're live.
Let's go. Pleasure to be back. Can I just say, it's a privilege.
Hold on, I want to write this. Thinking and exploring. Oh.
Take your time.
Thanks, man. Thinking and exploring.
While you're doing that, can I just advertise to the people that I just brought some. Last time we had a little snafu debacle with respect to blood sugar. Just kind of want to make sure we got the pH levels right. Brought a little Nature Valley. No, any nut allergies in the room?
No.
We're good?
We're good.
Yeah, I'm good. I have no allergies. Do you have any allergies?
No, only to not killing the game. Leaving this white cheddar, crispy minis. These are a bit dangerous. You got to be careful with these.
Yeah.
These kind of go all over the place. This table's a little too high quality, so we might get a napkin going when we do that. But anyway, we're good.
So I got here, Thinking and Exploring with Matty J, 612.
Hell yeah.
We will understand everything about Toronto and AI.
I hope so.
Even if it takes 12 hours.
I've canceled all my plans.
Let's do it.
I have one thing.
Now I'm done. Yeah.
Are we ready?
Yeah.
I solicited questions from the audience.
Yeah. So should we start there? I feel like we need to like warm up.
No, for sure.
I need to stretch.
Do you want to stretch? We can do a little stretch.
Like a mental stretch.
Oh, okay, for sure.
Like a mental stretch.
I was going to say, because we might need to do a physical stretch too.
Maybe at like the 6 hour mark.
Yeah. Okay. We can do something like that. Yoga with, who's your favorite YouTube yoga?
YouTube yoga?
What's that woman's name? Yoga with Adrian. There we go. Maybe we'll do that at the 6 hour mark.
Sure. Let's do it.
Yeah.
Let's see. Spadina Expressway.
Let's
look at something.
Let's ease our way there. Let me ask you something. Do you drive here today?
Yeah. Every day.
QEW. By the way, how are you doing with no coffee?
Oh my God. It's hell.
Really?
Yeah.
What have you replaced it with?
Nothing.
You're just raw dog in life.
Yeah. Day 16.
Day 16.
Yeah.
Why did you decide to do that?
I'm trying to focus more on my health in general, and like my body is pretty acidic. I think I do a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm not very good at like resting in general.
Yeah.
Like if you think about like yin yang,
sure.
I'm like only the dark side.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like I don't have like the balance. And so I'm trying to figure out how to, I think to get to the next level in everything I want to do in my life, I have to like be in much more of a balanced state.
Mm-hmm.
And cutting out coffee was part of that.
Wow.
Yeah. So day 16, some patterns that I've noticed are that I am much clearer in my thinking.
Really?
Yeah. Weird. It's weird because like caffeine gives you like this short-term alertness, right?
Mm-hmm.
And like I think you kind of think it like dials you up. It kind of like sharpens. It's like it kind of sharpens your thinking. But now that I've cut it out, I think what I'm finding is it was kind of dulling my thinking.
Right.
Yeah, I think it was like dulling it or something.
What are your new thoughts? I mean, what kinds of space of thoughts are available to you uncaffeinated that were not available before?
Yeah, I think it's just like, again, it's like very subjective, right?
Right.
But I think for me, what's happening is like when you're drinking coffee, you're taking a drug, right? It's like this kind of like drug. And so what happens is you're taking, and that drug has effects, and I'm taking it at like arbitrary. Is this caffeine?
Yeah.
Cool.
Robbie in the booth, by the way. Are we allowed to shout out?
Yeah, for sure.
Robbie in the
doing
booth.
A really good job.
Tommy's moved on.
Yeah.
Tommy graduated.
Yeah.
Tommy was a bit too skilled.
Yeah.
It's nice to have you with us, Robbie.
Yeah. I think Robbie might be even better than Tommy.
Whoa, Robbie just immediately with the caffeine. Come on now. Robbie in the booth. It's nice to see you.
Nice to see you too, man. I'm excited.
Yeah. I'm just finding that like when you drink coffee through the day, right? It's like you have these like spikes in energy and then these crashes in energy. You're not building on top of this like steady fundamental foundation, right? And so I find the kinds of thoughts I have are just they're just like I'm not operating on a baseline level of anxiety.
Sure. Which
I think I was before, right? I think like there's like this, I think when I was drinking coffee, it gives me this ambient low grade anxiety, you know? And so I'm just like calmer, and my thinking is just more like natural.
Nice.
It's just going from one thing. I finished that, then I moved to the next thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm enjoying it.
I've never drank coffee once in my entire life.
Yeah, I remember when we first like recorded, because I asked you if you wanted a coffee.
Oh, right.
And you didn't want one.
I don't.
So why?
I've never done a single substance of any kind. I've never drank coffee. I've never drank alcohol. I've never done any drugs.
That's kind of odd, no?
I would say it's a little odd.
But why is that? Is your whole family like that?
No, just me.
That's fucking weird.
I was scared of it.
You were?
Yeah, growing up. I mean, like,
damn.
And
like, but anything?
I was scared of all drugs of all kind.
What about like a candy, like sugar and stuff?
Had some Let me tell you something. You got to have some vice, right? I had a jujube addiction.
Really?
You know jujubes?
Yeah.
I was like clinically. You say they're gross? No, see, that's different.
No, that's like a.
Those are good. That's like
really?
well, no, that's not what I'm talking about.
No, you're talking about the candy.
I'm talking about the candy.
Yeah.
In undergrad, I had to be intervened upon because of my addiction to jujubes. And my friends sat me in a circle and they said, "We're here because we love you, but you need to stop it with the candy."
Like how many were you eating?
I don't know, like a pack a day.
A pack a day?
No, that's anyway. No, I have gone through various phases of eating a lot of candy, but I try
really
not to. Yeah, I mean, it's because you got to have something to.
Like, what do you mean by a lot of candy?
I don't know. Like, I feel like I can go through phases where I'm just like compulsively eating a lot of candy, and then you don't even notice, but you've killed a whole, family of Swedish fish, and then you feel bad.
What are those fish? What are those ones called again?
They're called Swedish fish. Yeah. At Trader Joe's, they're called Scandinavian swimmers.
Damn.
Pretty good branding.
So when you buy candy, do you go to like Bulk Barn? Or do you just go into like Shoppers?
I've been a Bulk Barn guy for sure.
Or you just like if
I'm being honest with you, I don't even. I haven't even been that discriminating in my sources.
Oh,
but sometimes when I'm at my parents' house, I'll be like raiding every cupboard just to find a little bit of candy because my mom knows that if there's like jujubes or anything, even now as an adult, I mean,
that's awesome.
And I'm in every drawer just being like, maybe there's a little bit of something. Maybe there's some chocolate chips somewhere. And my mom will be like, do you want me to go out and get you jujubes? And I'm like, no. The whole point is I don't want that. And I'm going in these cupboards and I'm glad that there's nothing here because if it was here, it'd be eaten immediately. And then she'll come back the next day. There's jujubes in the cup. I'm like,
what is it about jujubes? Do they really bang
I don't know.
like that?
I don't. And honestly, if I'm being like
they're not even in my top 10,
for sure.
dude.
What's an S tier candy to you?
Fucking nerds, man. Nerd clusters. S tier?
That's an S tier candy? Nerds? Really?
Finger dip, bro.
Dude, I think we are just operating in entirely different universes,
what's
my
finger
guy.
Dip? Is that what it's called?
I'm worried about what you're going to see when you Google it. But
Fun dip. Oh, shit.
Fun dip. I was a bit worried. Careful what settings you have on Google to be looking up that kind of. Yeah, careful now. Fun dip. Oh yeah, but that's just pure. That's like shooting into your veins level sugar. Yeah. That's like.
So what makes an S tier candy? Look at that, man. Lick a stick.
This is very interesting. We have very different preferences because I like Swedish fish, fuzzy peach, the watermelons.
Well, they're all right.
Those
fuzzy
kind of
peaches are all right.
Yeah, but you're more into this like direct sugar nerds. Like
not really. I like Big League Chew.
Big League Chew. Is this a generational thing?
Maybe.
I feel like these are some of these candies that you're naming read to me as like slightly of a different era.
This one specifically, yeah.
That's before your time.
Yeah.
That's old school. Oh, they rebranded.
Yeah. Man. I had that one on the top left.
You know what was good? Those like double bubble hubba bubba. You know what I'm talking about? That was a type of
bubble
gum.
tape.
Oh, maybe that, but maybe that's not even one of, I was not even thinking of that. One conspiracy is the like difference between what people call fruit roll up is really fruit by the foot.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Fruit roll up is more square. Anyway, there's some Mandela effect going on there, but those candies, I was never a gum chewer.
Yeah, me either. I just like the novelty of like the thing, like the package of the Big League Chew.
It's right. The Big League Chew. Yeah. The packaging is 90% of the work.
Yeah. It's cool. Are there any candies that are like unique to Toronto but not sold anywhere else in the world? Like uniquely popular here?
That's honestly a fantastic question, and I have not. Wow, there we go. Let's ask. Good afternoon, Tommy. Everything reminds me of him.
Yeah.
Miss him. I don't know if there are any. Nothing comes to mind. You know what was? I don't know about unique to Toronto, but there's a large history of Canada Dry ginger ale.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Right. All those like what we like all those things that you used to sell.
Yeah.
In kids like the coffee crisp is a classic.
Can we read that thing on the previous page?
What's coffee crisp about?
When you were saying that, yeah, here. Several candies are either unique to Canada or have strong ties to Toronto. Coffee Crisp,
right?
Made by Nestle.
Well, you know
Canada.
where that's made? Like in not far from here, near the junction on Sterling, like the West Toronto rail path. It just smells like candy there all the time.
Oh, really?
Have you ever walk around or bike around that area?
Yeah.
It's
caramel.
Can we get the map going?
Yeah.
Can we get Google Maps going?
No.
What?
Rockets are Canadian?
Rockets, I think in the U.S. are called Smarties.
Yeah. I just read that.
Well, you just read that on the screen? Come on now. Now let's look up Sterling Road. Right over there. All of that street. So if you look at that, that whole thing. Nestle Canada. Do you see that? Nestle Canada Inc. Just below where there you go. So that's the Nestle factory. So that's just, sick. So if you walk by there, it just smells like candy all the time. In the same way that the Red Path factory on the waterfront smells like sugar because they're refining sugar there. So yeah, if you walk down Sterling, it smells like candy.
Wow.
Pretty beautiful. But yeah, that's like one of the major factories. Go ahead.
That's one of the major factories?
Yeah, and if you look at the Red Path, if you want more places in Toronto that smell like sugar, you can look at the Red Path Sugar factory on the waterfront right there. That's the only real remaining major factory on the waterfront. You can actually walk through there. Go back up, or go back to that picture. Oh. There's a picture of the inside. So check that out. So yeah, look at that second picture. Oh, let's watch the video because I'll describe to you how this factory works. It's pretty cool. So those are just piles of unrefined sugar. Oh. So maybe let's go back to the map and I'll give you a little walkthrough of how that works. And look at that. We're back to learning about Toronto. What a great warm up.
Yep.
What flawless podcasting. Can we go on Street View? Can we drop our little guy in front of the Red Path Sugar Factory? Maybe let's rotate us there. Yeah, let's walk down the street that way. Yeah. Let's walk down the street. Keep it going. Let's keep going way farther. Just keep. Can we
gotta fly down the street, dude.
Maybe go to Sugar Beach. Yeah. Right there. No, around the corner on the beach. See where there's sand? Yeah. Right there. Yeah. And rotate it. And we're going to look. Yeah. Rotate.
Is that why it's called Sugar Beach?
There we go. Oh no, we're blocked by a tree. Can we get any closer to the water? Oh no. Oh, that's good. Yeah. We want to look back at the factory. There it is. Oh, there it is. Look at that crane. Okay. So let's just look right there for a minute. Yeah.
Oh.
So have you ever seen this?
No.
Okay. So this is cool. Let me just look to camera. This is something worth doing in the city of Toronto. A ship carrying unrefined sugar from the Caribbean, I think Brazil, but I'm not 100% sure, pulls into this harbor a couple times a week. And that big crane, can we zoom in on that big green crane? That big green crane, okay, is like, in Toy Story, the claw. It's got a big claw, and the ship like opens up, and this claw goes inside, and it's freaking swinging around, and then the teeth of this thing grab a bunch of sugar, and this is a very inefficient system, but the sugar is like falling through the pores of this claw thing. Okay. Then it lifts it up, and then this ceiling behind it, just the roof of that building, has an opening, and then the claw dumps sugar into that thing, into those piles. So we saw in that little video, those piles of sugar. Okay, now, Robbie, can we go back around? So let's walk up the beach. So we're going to walk north. So rotate us till we are facing north that way. Yep. That's a rock that's imported from Quebec, by the way. Keep going. Yeah, let's keep going up the beach. Keep going. A couple more steps until we get to the...
They imported a rock from Quebec?
Oh, yeah, there's many imported rocks. And then we're going to walk down the street until we get to over... Oh, let's keep going. A little left. Yeah, right there. And then, okay, so... Oh, where's the factory? No, there we go. Oh, that's where the ship is. Oh, right. So see, there's that opening. That's where the crane brings all the stuff. Okay, let's go back to street. Keep going. And now let's walk back down the street until we get to the factory right in front of it.
So is that why it's called Sugar Beach?
That's correct, because it's right in front of the sugar factory. Okay, keep going a little bit further. No, other way. Not that way. No, the other way. 180. Just rotate 180 from there. Click.
Here?
Yeah. Just click that like 4 times. One more. Great. We need one more. It looks like a big tunnel. Oh, there we go. So there's the factory. So what's happening is that is a conveyor belt that takes the sugar from those piles. If you go back to the left side, that building, that's where that stuff gets deposited. It's all sitting. The sugar's just sitting on the floor of that thing in those big piles. And then when they want to process it, it gets taken up that conveyor belt. I really wished that was a slide, but it's not. I thought that was a slide. I genuinely, growing up, I thought that was a slide for the employees, like a fire truck, like a firehouse. The floor of that thing where those big piles of sugar are opens up. The floor literally opens. The sugar falls through the floor onto a conveyor belt that takes it onto that thing, and then it gets sent into that other thing for processing. And if you ever go to buy Red Path sugar, like if you go to the grocery store, it's all being produced right here. So Red Path Sugar Factories. That's why the beach across from my Sugar Beach. Now this is the only factory remaining on the waterfront. There used to be so many more factories and so many more silos. There's 3 silos remaining. We can go through all the silos one by one, but soy mills, maple leaf, many different silos and factories on the waterfront. But there you go, Red Path Sugar Factory.
What do you mean by silo?
Oh, okay. Can you look up Ireland Park? Oh, on the map. Like a place where you would store grain or soya, and just let's get a. Oh, maybe not quite. We need to get the street view from in there. Yeah, let's drop us right there. You can drop us right there and rotate around, rotate. Oh no, they're under construction. Okay, we can look at a picture. They'll be in the pictures if you just look at them. If you scroll down far enough. There we go. There they are, still under construction.
I've never even heard of that park.
Ireland Park? Well, Internet Vin, do I have a story for you? Look at these pictures. So, there they are. So that's pre-restoration. They were restored. They were like big concrete silos. So I believe this was this was the Canada Malting Co. So this is where like malting, which is like used for beer or used for different types of candy, coming in full circle with the candy. And there was also like soy mills and grain mills. So this is just where you would store the raw materials. Why is this called Ireland Park? Pause on that for just 1 second. This is a kind of model of a ship. So in the 1810s, there was the Irish potato famine. Tens of thousands of Irish migrants came to Toronto, hungry, poor, starving, in need of help and support. The population of Toronto, I believe at the time, was like 10 to 15,000, and 20 to 30,000 Irish people showed up. So this is now more refugees than the population of Toronto at the time. And the city, not without great strife, took in a lot of these people, and it substantially increased the Irish presence and population in Toronto. And now this is a monument, a sculpture. You can see this one pregnant woman, but if you look, is this a rotatable image, what we have right now, or is that static? Is there a way to go back to a place where we can see this view in a rotatable way? Maybe go back to the map and land us back in street view. Just at that corner is fine. Yeah, right there. And rotate us around. And so this, zoom in. Just zoom in a bit. Yeah, right there. Yeah. So you can see those statues. Yeah. So those are statues. I mean, it's a little disturbing if you look at it, but we can look at the pictures later. But if you look at that guy, for example, there's the ship in the back there. There's a little ship looking thing made of some kind of rock, granite rock in the back. Just rotate a little bit more. Rotate a little bit more. Yeah, there we go. There's a thing that looks like a ship back there. Yeah. And then there's these like 4 statues of hungry Irish people walking away from the ship, and rotate now 180 degrees from there. The other way, keep going towards the city skyline. They are all pointing towards the skyline of Toronto, being like our savior. So there's actually another sculpture like this in Ireland of those same characters on the edge of the Irish coast walking towards that ship. So in this sculpture, they're walking off the ship, pointing to the Toronto, being like, you saved us, basically.
Damn, that's crazy.
So if we go back to the pictures, Robbie, or like the pictures up there, we can see, there we go. That's a great example of like what this monument looks like. So this is a kind of sculpture commemorating, Toronto's reputation for, accepting people from all over around the world, searching for a better life.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's really awesome.
Yeah. You can look at the picture below that. That's what the guy looks like. It's a quite fairly disturbing sculpture. I mean, look at this guy behind. I mean, it's not, it's not for the faint of heart. I mean, but it's pretty dramatic and maybe
pretty
moving.
For sure. Maybe they're trying to indicate that at the time that this happened, there was like a genuine need for this to happen. That in like the situation and the things that they were going through were very difficult.
100%. I mean, many of these people were genuinely starving. Anyway, there's going to be in this park a new museum, an Irish Canadian history museum in this park. But this is right where Billy Bishop Airport is. So Billy Bishop is right across the street. Of course, we could talk all day about Billy Bishop. Let me show you one other park while we're here. How about Little Norway Park? Can we look that one up? This is right across the street. So
how many parks are there in Toronto?
1,500.
1,500?
Yeah. 1,500 parks.
What are the best ones?
What a question. Can we rotate 180? Or just go back to where you were? Let's rotate 180. Can we rotate 180 or no?
Sorry, it's a photo.
All good. Why are you laughing?
It's just funny, man.
We're just having fun. Little Norway Park. Let's get it. Anyone want to talk about... Anyone in the... Sound off in the comments. Why is it called Little Norway? Sound off in the comments. Anyone watching online? Sound off in the comments. Why is this called Little Norway Park? Are people watching this?
Probably.
Are they sounding off in the comments?
Let's see.
Sound off in the comments. What's your favorite park in Toronto? Sound off in the comments. Hit like and subscribe. This is called Little Norway Park because what we now call Billy Bishop Airport was used as a training ground for the Norwegian military in World War II.
This was?
Billy Bishop Airport? Well, this is not Billy Bishop Airport. No. This is a big park.
But what is... You said the Norwegian...
Sorry, let's just look at Billy Bishop. We're all in this. Zoom out. Yeah, just zoom way out. Maybe we should go... Let's go satellite view. Can we go satellite view? Hit layers there. Yeah. Heck yeah. That's Billy Bishop Airport. There was Island Park where we just were, and there's Little Norway Park. Billy Bishop Airport was, at the time, in the 1940s, used as a training facility for the Norwegian Air Force to learn how to fight the Nazis in World War II. So they lived in barracks in little houses on the land of what is now... Billy Bishop was a Canadian fighter pilot.
Let me read that. Go back.
You want to learn about Billy Bishop?
During World War II, Billy Bishop, Canada's top flying ace from World War I, served as an air marshal in the Royal Canadian Air Force and played a key role in recruiting for the RCAF and promoting the British Commonwealth training plan. He was instrumental in setting up a system for training pilots across Canada and helped establish the plan, which trained over 130,000 airmen during the war.
And then they named the airport after him. Nice fella. But yeah, so you want to look up, if you're going to look Google's, they think you're asking about Billy Bishop the person, but what you're asking, it was not called Billy Bishop Airport at that time. I think it was called Toronto City Airport maybe, but if you want to look up it was used for the Norwegian Air Force. But anyway, that park across
that like little like piece of land that the airport's built on top.
Yes.
Is that man-made land?
You bet. You bet it is.
It is.
You bet it is. Yeah. And the Norwegian Air Force lived in little barracks. But yeah, if you go back to the map, yes, that's all made land for sure.
So what's this Muggs Island thing?
Well, those are the many, many islands that make up the Toronto Islands. There's no one Toronto Island.
How many Toronto Islands are there?
I think 10, but
Is this all of them?
I think so. Let's count them.
Have you been there?
Are you asking me?
Yeah.
Absolutely. Have you been there?
No.
You've never been there in your entire life?
No.
To the Toronto Islands? I would love to go with you to the Toronto Islands.
Yeah.
I think it'd be a very fun time.
What can you go closer? Like what's going on here? Oh. Maybe I have been here. Is this where like Fantasy Island is or something? No. Is that what it's called?
No, I don't know what you're referring to.
That might be in like Woodbine Mall.
I think
isn't there like a Toronto Island Fair thing or like something where there's like a train that you ride around and shit as a kid?
Is that at Ontario Place? I'm not sure. I know what you're thinking. I'm not sure. But anyway, I mean, the Toronto Islands.
That up, Robbie. There's like some island thing.
Okay.
Like you can ask Claude or ChatGPT or something. It's like, what's the island thing that kids do in Toronto? Where like they go to?
There is a train.
Centerville
Train ride. Centreville. Yeah.
Maybe it's this thing.
Okay.
So where is this?
That's on the islands.
Oh, I've been there.
But like as a child.
Yeah. I know that place, man.
Oh, you know it.
I know everything about that place.
You know it. Moving on. You know everything there is to know. Okay, can we go back to the map? We need to go back to the map for a minute. There's lots to talk about. I mean...
Well, are you going to explain this island thing?
Sure.
Yeah.
It's many, many islands. Can we count them? Should we give them a little count?
Yeah.
There's the main island. You see the main island kind of rotates all the way around, right? It kind of loops all the way and then back up there. That's one. And then there's like at least 7 or 8 other smaller islands. Ned Hanlon, he was a rower. I don't know what that one is. What the heck is going on
Toronto
there?
Islands.
The person who knows the most about this is Michelle Gorky. She's a real expert of this. Shout out to Hang6 on Instagram, HANG, and then the number 6. If you want to know about the Toronto Islands, she's the person to ask. Anyway, did you get the count?
Well, I see one like big thing.
Yeah, there's one big one around the corner.
2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
I thought the number was 10, but it could be even more. And there's a bunch of little ones. And also some of them are connected by bridges. You know, there's also Ward's Island. People live here, by the way, on the Toronto Islands.
That's what I was going to ask.
People live here. It's very complicated. Talk about housing. Let's get Eric Lombardi, Rishi Kothari on the case, because the way you can get, the way you can live on the Toronto Islands is very complicated.
Oh, yeah,
you enter a wait list that takes like 80 years to get off. And, it's an extremely robust system, partially due to luck and partially due to a lot of waiting, based on like random chance on this waiting list. And people, sign up for the waiting list when they're 20, and then they get the housing when they're in their 70s. So it's a kind of extraordinary experience meant to kind of.
You can't buy houses there either.
You can't just buy a house. No, you have to like participate in the formal process. There's no open market.
Even if you get your like name chosen, you still can't buy it.
No.
Yeah.
So
didn't like Chris Hadfield grow up here?
I don't know.
I think so.
Maybe.
I think he grew up on the Toronto Island.
Can we zoom out quite a lot more? I want to talk about where the islands came from. Let's talk about the ecological history of this. I'm about to tell you. All right, let's leave it right there. Have you been to the Scarborough Bluffs?
Yeah.
Can we get a little image of the Scarborough Bluffs real quick? Look at that. The Scarborough Bluffs.
Why does it look like Barbados?
Because Toronto is literally as, if not more, beautiful than Barbados.
No.
Name me one. What are you saying right now? Name me one country in the Caribbean or the world that is prettier than Toronto. I dare you.
In the world? Name one country. Name one city or country in the world
that's prettier than Toronto.
Yeah, Mississauga.
At some point, we got to talk about Peel region. By the way.
Yeah, sure.
You know about Peel region?
Yeah, I think so. I grew up there.
Yeah. Okay, anyway, let's go back. Zoom out. Okay, what are the Scarborough Bluffs? What are the Scarborough Bluffs?
What are they?
The Scarborough Bluffs are the former shore. Let's just stay on this map for a while. Let's just keep. By the way, look at our city. Do you see how much green is on this map? Do you see how much green is on this map in our city? Come on now. Come on.
What's the green
Stunning.
around the water?
Which green around the water?
Like as you're getting close to the shore, yeah, all that stuff.
Oh, that's just like shading on Google Maps.
But like to indicate what?
Like depth of water.
That it's water. Or like, yeah.
So what's around it?
Like fake, not real images with a Google copyright on it.
Okay.
Yeah, it's all just, yeah.
I thought it was like seaweed.
Maybe, or maybe I could be totally wrong and there's some not color correction. I actually don't know. Anyway, let's look at this view. Right. What are the Toronto Islands? Lake Ontario used to be much bigger than it is now, 12,000 years ago. Okay. There was a clog in the drain of Lake Ontario. Lake Ontario drains into the Atlantic Ocean. Somewhere in upstate New York, there was a clog in the drain of Lake Ontario, a big glacier preventing it from getting all the way to the Atlantic. That led Lake Ontario to be much taller than it is today. Robbie, can we Google shoreline of glacial Lake Iroquois? Glacial Lake Iroquois. Oh, yeah, that'll do it. And let's go to the images and let's open up. No. There, with the map, it's a map of Toronto with a blue line superimposed on it. One row down from that. One row down from that. No, one row. No. Oh. There we go. Let's open. So that is how big Lake Ontario used to be. That was the shoreline of Lake Ontario, where that purple line is now. So the city is much steeper at this line. So if you go north of Davenport Road, for example, where Casa Loma is, the city gets really steep. If you were to just follow this, stay. If you were to just follow this purple line, you'd be on a much steeper part of the city. And you'll notice, because that's where the old shoreline of the lake was. And so when this clog in the drain of Lake Ontario disappeared, the lake fell down really fast. leaving behind that old shoreline. So the city's much taller up there. There's one place where the old shoreline meets the current shoreline. Can you go to the place on that map where the old shoreline meets the current shoreline? Where is it? Where the purple, no, you're on the map already. No, stay where you are. Where that purple line meets the current shoreline. Right there. That's the Scarborough Bluffs.
Oh, damn.
So the Scarborough Bluffs are the height of the former shoreline of Lake Ontario. And then Lake Ontario fell down and it left that behind. Let's go back to the Google Maps.
That's nuts.
Back to Google Maps. Wait, go back.
It's one of the tabs.
There we go. Zoom back in. About 8,000 years ago, sand from the Scarborough Bluffs started to fall into Lake Ontario. So this sand started to fall into Lake Ontario. And zoom out just a little bit more. The Niagara River, directly opposite Toronto. The water from the Niagara River drains into Lake Ontario. Okay. There was a kind of vortex created where this water from the Niagara River caused a kind of spiraling effect from the, so take your mouse from the Niagara River and bring it all the way up to Toronto. There was a kind of spiraling effect caused by the water kind of vortexing in this little Burlington Bay, Hamilton Harbor thing. That spiral vortex effect from the sand from the Scarborough Bluffs caused all of that sand to coagulate, to coalesce, to create a long sand bank extending out from the Toronto. Can you look up Toronto Islands 1700, like what they would have looked like 300 years ago, or like the early images of the Toronto. Let's go to the third one right there. Perfect. Let's open that up. This is what the Toronto quote unquote islands, that's what they want you to think. Let's open image in new tab. Perfect. That's what it looked like originally. So this sand just fell down. So all of this that you see here is just sand, right? All of those lines, this Gibraltar
the
Point
Russia stuff.
That's like, this is all
the lines. Oh, the lines by Lake Ontario where it says Lake Ontario.
Yeah, where it says Lake Ontario. And so Lake Ontario, that's like the shore of the island. What we were calling the islands, first of all, were never an island. It was a long thing of sand and it extended all the way to the mainland. See, that's just a lot of sand. And so it was not really like usable, let alone for an airport. By the way, look how many rivers flow into Lake Ontario. Look how many rivers, that one. Look at all those rivers. Look at all those rivers that flow into Lake Ontario that don't exist anymore. That's marsh is called, we now call Ashbridges Bay Marsh. That is now where the Portlands are. We talked about last time. Anyway, the point is...
Who made this map?
This is some old ass...
Is this how they used to make maps?
Yeah, bro. Look at the Don River, so winding. Anyway, what is this feeling so sudden and new?
How do you like space out where the rivers are?
What do you mean by that? I think this is
like...
Go ahead.
You see how like you're saying like these like rivers?
Yeah.
Damn, how did they draw this? Like they didn't have planes.
Yeah. Surveying techniques, compasses... It's really old cartography is super interesting. Lewis and Clark. I mean, indigenous people knew how to navigate all of this. So you can learn being on the ground how to navigate without necessarily needing, airplanes to get aerial views of the territory that you're mapping. But anyway, all I wanted to say was that this looks like the island's super sandy and murky. And this was also a very, very shallow harbor. And so what they did is they dug up a lot of that harbor and dug up a lot of this sand and then used that sand and the stuff they dug up from the harbor to rebuild the Toronto Islands to make them navigable and nice. And so not just a kind of unnavigable sandbar. And then at a certain point in the 1850s, it became disconnected. Robbie, if you take your mouse where it is right now and do a diagonal line right there, boom, yes. That sand right there. Ooh, no. Right there. Yeah. Got cut off. So there was a big storm. Yes. And it got cut off. And that's when the Toronto Islands became an island, 1858. So that's now called the Eastern Gap. Let's go back to the map of the city on Google Maps. So that's when the islands became an island. Let's just zoom back into the city. I just want to say one more thing. We're so off topic. I mean, we're on topic. I don't even know how we got here.
Yeah. We're on directly on topic.
Tommy Thompson
we're
Park.
Literally over we're overhead.
You're so
topic.
right.
Yeah.
If you look at
on top of it. We're on top of the topic.
Look at Tommy Thompson Park, by the way. Why would you go on a tropical vacation when you can go to... Look at that picture. Literally, why would you go on a tropical vacation when you can go to Tommy Thompson Park?
Have you been here?
Absolutely.
Wow.
It's stunning.
How long does it take to get there from here?
25-minute bike along the waterfront.
Can you do barbecues there?
No. Tommy Thompson Park is an ecologically protected zone. It's not like a place for having barbecues.
Can you eat,
it's
like, jerk chicken there?
I think it's like an ecologically protected zone for like turtle and bird wildlife protection. And there's one jerk chicken restaurant. No, but
can I like bring a shawarma there? Like in my backpack?
I think so. I don't know what the rules are around food at Tommy Thompson Park. Do you think that you would enjoy Tommy Thompson Park more if you were allowed to bring jerk chicken and shawarma?
Yeah, because then it's like you just sit on the beach, look at it.
Yeah.
Eat some jerk chicken with your homies.
The Tommy Thompson Floating Park Bridge is a break.
Look at some turtles and shit.
No, totally.
You know? You
For
gotta have
sure.
a snack. Like someone's got to pull something out of their bag eventually, right? Like,
Some
you
big
do-
league
you,
man.
like, go out
This
there
and
for
some
the day
this
then
and
just,
some
like, no
big
one has
league
a fucking
chew. You
snack.
know? No, yeah. You would go to the island if you wanted to do that.
If someone was there and like we're just looking at the water and it's really quiet, and then someone's just like,
I got that finger dip on me. Imagine this. Picture this. You're at Tommy Thompson Park with your boys. Someone's like, "Man, I got that finger dip on me." What could be better?
That's so bad, man. I'd eat a jube off the bridge there.
This and some jujubes, man.
Like,
that would go crazy.
imagine munching on some.
What could be better?
Look to the left. Damn.
It's a beautiful view. Can I tell you where Tommy Thompson Park came from?
This person took the photo because they thought the symmetry of the bridge was important, but they missed the whole point. You know?
What do you mean? Like they missed the other side?
Yeah, you know? Needing more water?
I was going to ask for a little Welch's fruit snack. It's happening already. Thank you. I had that UFO on me for the first time.
Yeah.
That place is sick.
Yeah, it's a funny place. It's like any convenience store.
No, we don't need to pull that. We don't need to. Let's stay focused here. You're locked in. You're locked in. You're locked in on the Google.
I'm ready.
It's incredible. Where did Tommy Thompson Park come from? Can I tell you? Can we look at a map? Can we look at or Google like Tommy Thompson Park evolution or something like that? Just images. Uh-oh. Yeah, so this is an entirely man-made structure. Yeah, that's a good picture. So that's what it starts. So what this thing that I'm showing you, Tommy Thompson Park, is 100% human constructed.
Yeah.
So
this was like they were dumping the house excavation.
yeah, did we talk about that last time?
Yeah.
There you go. Maybe we're just revisiting old material here. But yeah, we did talk about it last time. But maybe we didn't take a look at it.
How about I'll ask you some questions.
Okay.
Because I feel like you know a lot.
Okay.
So, what's the best park in Toronto? How big is High Park big?
High Park's pretty big.
Like how big relative to like Central Park?
Quite a bit smaller.
Yeah.
But it's pretty big. I don't know the numbers. Can we run the numbers?
I'm gonna say it's like 1/4.
843 acres Central Park. 398 acres. Oh, sorry, 161 acres. Oh no, hectares, acres, 400.
So it's half the size.
Yeah, pretty good. It's not bad. And High Park is, dare I say, nicer to walk around.
Really?
High Park is more protected, more trees. Central Park is very manicured. Central Park is an extremely landscaped environment designed by a guy named Frederick Law Olmsted, who is like the most famous landscape architect, maybe like the inventor of the field of landscape architecture. If you look up Frederick Law Olmsted, he designed Central Park. He designed
Did you do Prospect Park in Brooklyn?
I believe so.
That's probably my favorite park.
Look at this guy. Look at this goat.
Frederick Law Olmsted was an American landscape architect, journalist, social critic, and public administrator. He is considered to be the father of landscape architecture in the United States. Olmsted was famous for co-designing many well-known urban parks with his partner Colbert Vaux, beginning with Central Park in New York City, which led to numerous urban park design, including Prospect Park in Brooklyn, Codwalder Park in Trenton, New Jersey, and Forest Park in Portland, Oregon. I think Prospect Park is like way better than Hyde Park, in my opinion.
Prospect Park in New York City is better than High Park in Toronto.
In Brooklyn, yeah. No, sorry. Prospect Park in Brooklyn is better than Central Park in New York City?
Like, yes, and neither holds a candle to Little Norway Park in Toronto.
This is a Prospect Park.
You know, those environments
beautiful.
are much more manicured, I would say, and landscaped than High Park. High Park has a lot of old growth trees.
Look at this. This is
No,
nuts.
Prospect Park is stunning. Prospect Park is extraordinary. When I lived in Brooklyn, I was very close to Prospect Park, and I went there all the time, and it's really miraculous. I agree that
insane.
it's better than Central Park.
It's insane.
It is. It's really amazing. Central Park is like potentially a bit too big and a little bit unwieldy, and it definitely feels very landscaped. It feels very like, let's just intentionally cut off where all the buildings are and put a big park here in a way that you can feel. I did, yeah.
Oh, you did? For how long?
I've lived in New York for one summer. For the summer of 2017, I was doing research at NYU.
Really?
Yeah.
What were you
I lived
researching?
in Brooklyn. I was doing research in psychology on how people perceive mathematical objects, whether our perception of...
How people perceive mathematical objects?
Yes. I was combining my undergrad in math
Yeah.
with my master's in psychology. I was pivoting to doing a master's in psychology and cognitive science, and I had done my undergrad in math. And so I'd found a researcher named Molly Dillon based at NYU who researches kind of the way we perceive, studies about how people perceive shapes, people's intuitive geometry. What kinds of geometric ideas are you born with? So for example, are kids born finding it naturally intuitive that if you put a ball on a hill, it will roll down? Will kids be confused if you show them a video of a ball rolling up a hill, for example? Will kids be confused if you show them, Moira. Wow, we're shouting at everybody. Will kids be confused if you show them two objects colliding with each other, and then the smaller one moves instead of the heavier one, or sorry, the heavier one moves instead of the smaller one, for example? So you can do these experiments where you defy people's rules for geometry or physics, and you look at you observe how surprised kids are by those kinds of experiments. So here we go, the lab for the developing mind. So
So are kids confused when they see a ball going up a hill?
They are.
Really?
Yeah, we have a certain amount of what the psychologist Liz Spelke calls core geometry, which is kind of a set of principles or ideals that young children are born with, but it's rooted in our sense of intuitive physics. Everybody has a sense of intuitive physics. So kids from a very, 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 very young age are surprised when an object passes through a solid. You make an animation of a ghost passing through a door from a very young age. I mean, pre-verbal, kids will look at that and look surprised or look at it longer. So in some of these studies, this is not the type of study I ran, but in some of these studies, you just get to see what kids look at. And so if you see someone, if you show a kid a video of by kid, I mean baby, I mean infant. You show them a video of a person opening a door and then they walk through the door and then they close the door. The baby's distracted, looking around, whatever. You show them a video of that same person walking through the door. All of a sudden the kid is like,
really?
What did I just see? So you can use that kind of experiment to study what intuitive ideas about space and geometry and physics and matter are children born with. And so it's kind of part of this grand project to understand. Oh, whoa, hello.
Oh.
Anyway.
My bad.
What about the mathematical objects?
Well, so if we can we click the research tab? This is such a different part of my life we're talking about. How wonderful. Here are some, you can see this is experiments. So for instance, I'm just guessing what some of these experiments are about, but that's a really interesting one at the bottom. If you go to that one at the bottom, in the middle, that's an experiment where you show kids two sides of a triangle and you have them point to see where would the third vertex go.
And they always get it right.
Sort of, but they get it wrong. When they get it wrong in interesting and predictable ways.
Oh, really?
And that teaches you about kind of what kids' intuitive sense of geometry is like. So are we watching a video now? Oh, what is this? This is random. I don't know who this person is.
Just watch it.
Who's this? The University of Chicago. Oh, Susan Levine. Can we pause?
Yeah.
This is a different thing, but it's still interesting. It's just a slightly different thing we're watching here. We can watch that and we can put that on the syllabus for another time.
This was about, that video was about understanding how, like, increasing spatial intelligence.
Yeah, I think that was about kind of teaching kids, and this is about pre-teaching.
Yeah, what understanding what the innate
exactly
abilities are.
Exactly. So there we go. So can we wait? Is there a list of papers on the website? Can we scroll up, see a list of papers somewhere? Publications. Yeah, there we go. Is there a shape bias? Wow. So these are all, I mean, this is spatial layout. So it's, yeah, what kind of object directing in some path, not efficiency. Shape. Anyway, I did work. My paper is probably somewhere on this page somewhere. Oh, there we go. Look. Yeah, there we go. Holly, Yuval.
Open that up.
Mind-bending geometry, children and adults intuitions. There's our paper. Look at that. That's my one and only scientific publication.
Mind-bending geometry, children's and adults intuitions about linearity on spheres.
So the study that we ran, wow, we're really taking it afield. I love this. The study that we ran was a study where there's a bit of background we need to understand. Maybe there's images. Can we scroll down if there's pictures? I just want to understand. We need to understand what linearity means on different kinds of surfaces. Oh, there we go. Okay, great. So let's look at this. Let's look at these images for a second. On a flat surface like this table, if I want to get from here to here, the fastest route would be a straight line between them. If I put these two objects on a curved surface, like a sphere. Now, a curved surface like this is not quite good enough. We need a fully spherical surface. This is basically a flat surface by another name. This is just a flat. Yeah, well, not quite, because you could unwrap it. See, the difference between this and a sphere is that if you took this cylindrical object, I don't know if this is on the camera. A cylinder is topologically actually the same as a flat surface, because a cylinder, if I cut it along this line, this would unroll and become flat. If you take a sphere and you cut it, it doesn't become flat. It will still always have bumps. That's called the hairy ball theorem.
I like that.
Yeah. Anyway, on a sphere, what's funny? It's just the name of a mathematical theorem. Why is that funny? I'm just trying to do serious work here. On a sphere, the shortest path between 2 points is the path which, if it were to continue, would chop the sphere in half. So it would like make an equator between those 2 points. So if we look at this, for instance, C, if you look at example C, that path between those 2 points is not the shortest distance between those 2 points, because if that path continues, it slices off a cap of the sphere, but does not chop it in half, right? Whereas B, it's the same 2 points, but it's a different path between them that is the shortest path between them. It's kind of a trick. It's kind of an illusion where you have to go curved. That's why sometimes you look at flight maps and it's like, why are we going, you're flying from Paris to San Francisco. You like go over Canada in a way that is confusing intuitively to your sense of the map, right?
If you're looking at it if you imagine it as a flat.
Exactly. But that's because you're imagining the world as a flat surface.
Totally.
When you imagine the world as a sphere, the trajectories require spherical geometry. And so again, the shortest distance between 2 points on a sphere is the one which makes a great circle, namely cuts the sphere perfectly in half. So that's called a great circle or a geodesic. A and B in this image. What's that?
I didn't know that was the meaning of the term geodesics.
So look at this. Geodesics look straight in a picture when they circumscribe the sphere's equatorial plane. Bro, what are we saying right now? I wrote that and I'm like, what the heck am I talking about? Anyway, so you can see, this is basically like in example A, that is, the shortest path, but you can kind of have tricks of visual illusions. Basically, if we took that sphere in A and we rotated it upward, it would look like B. It wouldn't look like C, C and D are the same. They're just a kind of trick of the eye. Anyway, what we did in this study, that's just the background. Let's scroll down. What did we do in this study? We basically showed kids we showed both children and adults there we go. Look, there's Holly. Shout out Holly. We showed kids and adults a bunch of pictures like these, and we said, okay, which one of these is the shortest distance? So if you look at example B, out of the left and the right, which one is the shorter path between those 2 points?
You asking me?
I'm asking you.
First one.
Oh, I'm sorry, but no. See, that first path, if it were to continue...
Oh, wait. Yeah, you're right. Yes.
I mean, I've told you the trick. You now know that you need to continue the path and chop the sphere in half. Obviously, the kids running the study were not told that, right?
Yes.
So the kids are doing this and the adults are doing this without any explanation. They're just being told, pick the shorter path. And let's see what the results... The results are...
I got it wrong when you explained to me how it works.
The results are... that the results are that generally speaking, people are better at this than you would expect. And in particular, adults can do this without like being explicitly educated about it. I mean, there's a lot more information.
Except me.
What's that? Except for, you are part of the, 40, 50, whatever, in that right turn adult straight arc condition. You goofed. You're the red group in that condition. Anyway, so, that was a study we ran, 2017, the summer I lived in New York City.
Yeah.
And wow, that's how we got there, because I lived in New York City running this experiment. And then it was published in 2023 in the journal Developmental Psychology. And
I think it's interesting because I think when you're looking at the way that you're breaking things down, like when you're diving into like all of this Toronto and all of these, anything that you get interested in,
yes,
you know a lot about it and you go like very deep.
For sure.
And so I think that like you're also very good at explaining these things in simple and like engaging ways. And so I think sometimes when you're explaining things in these simple and engaging ways, you can, if you're not paying attention, you can miss the fact that there's like a ton of like depth that someone would have had to do like research like a bunch of research to be able to express these things from all of these different dimensions and figure out how it all works and how it all connects together. What I like about seeing this stuff is kind of, you get to see the kind of research without the storytelling layer on top of it.
Right.
Cause this is the hard part.
For sure.
Right. And like, breaking it down, making it more abstract, like making it understandable in a way, that's the gift of doing all the research.
Totally.
Right? It's like because the reason you have to explore every possible angle is because you need to know what to not include.
Totally. And right? I mean, to your point,
like what matters?
100%.
The only way to know what matters is to scan the whole environment.
You're exactly right. I appreciate you saying that. I often think a lot about how the kind of curatorial, what makes an expert is having seen everything, categorized everything, and having kind of their own system for organizing it, and therefore being able to know what to include, what not to include, and what does and does not matter. Mm-hmm. So musicians have listened to every album. Professional musicians know every single record ever produced. Mm-hmm. Historians have read every book, these psychology, right? So it's like, I'm doing this course about the history of Toronto. As part of that, I did the kind of painstaking labor of trying to find every single book ever written about Toronto. It's unbelievably inefficient. Every nonfiction book. It's extremely inefficient, right? There are no databases because you're making the database. If the database existed, I wouldn't have to do it. So you're like going to used bookstores and just walking up and down the halls. You're going to every library, walking up and down the halls, and it's like, that's the only way,
Really? I guess because there's no database.
Well, I'm making the database.
Yeah, no, I mean, but if there was, you wouldn't walk up and down the halls and go to the used bookstores and stuff.
If there was, I would find some other problem that required me to do something equivalently arduous, right? Because it's like, there's always something that doesn't exist. Yeah. And moreover, I'm trying to become an expert. And I'm not trying to rely on someone else's expertise, right? The best way to become an expert is not to read other people's databases. It's to make one of my own.
Right.
So it's like, I can read it. I need to develop a representation and a mental map for myself of the problem space I'm trying to explore. So for instance, there's a guy named Sean McAuliffe, who's a wonderful writer and author about Toronto. Right. He wrote a great book called Stroll, which is a list of walks around Toronto. I think it's a great book. You don't become Sean McAuliffe by reading the book Stroll. You become Sean McAuliffe by walking all around Toronto. So if I want to become an expert in understanding Toronto, you do what the experts did. And the experts didn't become experts by reading other people's books about walking.
Yeah.
They became experts by doing the walking for themselves and then figuring something out novel for themselves. And so it's oftentimes, you look at the people who make great playlists, they've heard all the bad stuff too. It takes a great deal of inefficiency to be able to produce something of value. And I think that inefficiency is like actually an instrumental, invaluable part of the process. This is part of my gripe with AI tools, is they de-frictionalize a lot of that process. So I say, give me the 10 best books about this. And then what's happening is that I don't have to ever develop a mental representation for myself of what does and does not matter. Someone else is doing that work for me. So I'm outsourcing the most important part. Those inefficiencies are really important.
Yeah. We're adopting the mental representations of these LLMs.
Yes.
There's no force that's going to counteract that. Because I read this book that was really interesting. You might have heard of it. It's called How to Read a Book by
Mortimer Adler.
Yeah, Mortimer J. Adler. And I was like, I think it was written in 1964 or something, maybe.
Yeah.
But it's a good book. And at the beginning of it, it was written 1940. Fuck. Yeah. So at the beginning of the book, he talks about how, I think he wrote like an updated intro or something, but at the beginning of it, he talks about how people don't form their own perspectives on things, right? Something like this. They don't form their own perspective on things. They hear things on the news or whatever, and they play them back like it's a cassette.
Totally.
That's what he said.
Right.
And that hit me because I was like, that's kind of like that's a lot of like the problem with like the modern world in a way, right? Where it's like, I was seeing this before, like TikTok and stuff like that, where it's like, oh, there's not a lot of people looking at things like fundamentally and trying to understand things for themselves. It's like, you can kind of like see, when you're talking to someone, you can kind of see where they're pulling their references from, and like, you know what I mean? Where that they're playing something back. And I think because that's been happening when this book was written in 1940, and it's happening now when you hit with algorithms and things like this. I think like the thing is that with LLMs, it's even more nuanced and intense, because let's say you read a book, right? Or let's say you see a video on TikTok, or let's say you're watching the news and someone shares a perspective and you internalize that perspective, and then you're at some dinner party later and you like say it at the dinner table, right? On some level, you know that's not your perspective. Mm-hmm. On some level, right? Even if it goes on and like integrates into who you are as a person, it's some like core thing. I feel like, at least for me, on some level, I know that's not my perspective. It's something that I believe to be true because of the way somebody else described it, right? But with LLMs, it's interesting because the way that it communicates with you, it's so subtle. It doesn't feel entirely like a different person. It feels more like an extension of your own thoughts, mm-hmm. right? In the subtle way it encourages you, in the subtle way it like makes you feel seen. And so I think like we have this natural momentum towards, adopting these mental representations or these framing around ideas that we didn't really form from our own direct experience. Clearly we have this pattern over time. And now you have these LLMs where there's people not even aware that, oh, hey, they're not thinking like you, where they're looking at like a passage of text from an LLM and saying, okay, so the underlying architecture that would have needed to be the underlying relational ideas, the relationship of ideas and whatever the beliefs, the first beliefs that would have had to happen for this passage of text to be written. Maybe I don't even fundamentally agree with those or something. You know what I mean?
For sure.
It's like, it's very easy to adopt the mental framing, and it's very subtle that it's like, that's applying a mental framing.
Yeah. I completely agree. How do you avoid that for yourself? I feel like you are a big proponent of the use of large language models, but you are also a big proponent of understanding things fundamentally, running experiments, doing things from first principles, getting to the source. How do you square those two things, which I view as a little bit in conflict with each other?
Totally. I don't think you can replace using LLMs with talking to humans.
Okay.
Right? I think there's like certain conversations that you can have with a human being that are like very useful, and not so much other ones.
Right.
Right. LLMs can replace a lot of the kind of like useless ones.
Which conversations are the useless ones?
I think like this idea of like,
purely
hey, are you
informational.
available at 1?
Okay.
You know, hey, can you do 1:30 instead?
Right.
It's like, this is a fucking waste of time.
What?
But like these kinds of things, like certain messages, certain logistical things.
Okay.
Certain logistical based communication that happens through the day.
But how can are you asking Claude if it's available? Claude is always available.
I think it would be great if like, no, I mean, like, I think this kind of a conversation could be replaced. Like, that's a human conversation.
Oh, I see.
That could be replaced by an LLM. In terms of how I'm using LLMs,
sure.
I think like I just have to be aware that I try to be aware that a little bit skeptical in the way that it's giving me ideas, like skeptical of the ideas it's sharing with me. And if it's sharing something that I'm excited about and that seems like an interesting idea and like a correct idea, I'll try to either test it out myself to see if it's true, or I will try to validate it through other conversations like this, right? Where I'm talking to other people and understanding how they think, understanding what they value, understanding what they've learned from their experiences. And that can like really catapult me out of like a particular zone of ideas, right? Like I'm using an LLM and after like I'm using an LLM one way, but after having this conversation with you, it's going to change the way I think, right? It's going to change I'm looking at like how you're looking at these research papers and like how deep you're going, right? It's inspiring. And so it changes how I think about what is good research and what is not good research. And yeah, these deep conversations are like really an important like augmentation to using these like LLMs. So yeah, I think it's just having like a healthy skepticism, I think, but also I'm very, very adamant about, I use LLMs not to tell me how things work, but more for directional ideas of experimentation. So if I ask it something, let's say about China, I also know that at the back of my mind, I know that I'm going to go there and see this for myself. I'm not going to be walking. It's in my code, you know, like I'm not going to be walking around talking about this stuff because like an LLM said it.
Right.
I might. It's just a direction. It's just directional information. You know.
Yeah. It's great.
Yeah.
I find I'm down to just using it for like catching typos.
Oh, you're not using it much at all.
I did for like 1 week.
Really?
And then I was like, no.
That's impressive.
I want to be very intentional about the kinds of cognitive offloading I do. I'm very nervous about an idea called technological somnambulism. Robbie, let's get that on the screen.
That's interesting that you're saying that because you're the second person that said that now. And actually, I'm hearing it a lot. It's like a
somnambulism. Somnambulism. Yeah. Oh, look at that image of that guy sleeping. Somnambulism means sleepwalking. Technological somnambulism means sleepwalking into, well, we can read it right there. We can read the AI Gemini summary of, ironically, technological somnambulism, the uncritical and passive adoption of new technologies without fully considering their broader societal and ethical impacts. Sleepwalking through technological change. We embrace new tools without fully understanding or reflecting on their consequences. Now, of course, that is not what's happening here. You are a very reflective person, and I know that you and many of the people listening to this are not using LLMs with like without understanding, you know, their implications. So, you know, the issue that I worry about personally is I think a lot about, for instance, navigation. A lot of people I know do not know how to navigate without Google Maps, right?
Yeah, me too.
They've completely offloaded whatever ability they might have had to get around to a mobile application, which I think is fine. But I don't think they did that on purpose.
No.
I don't think people went in saying, I am comfortable losing my ability to navigate. and I'm comfortable handing the reins over to Google Maps and becoming completely dependent on it. Right. In the same way that you're so like, you've become dependent on coffee for your being awakeness, you know? And now you're looking at that going, you know, whether intentionally or not, I kind of have a crutch. I worry when I see people using Google Maps, not that they can't navigate, because there's plenty of things they can't do. I can't multiply 6-digit numbers in my head. I need a calculator. So it's fine. There's plenty of skills that we don't have that we can give to technology. We can't do most things. The question is whether you did it on purpose. Mm-hmm. Whether I intentionally offloaded my ability to navigate. And I don't want to lose that, for example. So I'm very intentional. Like, I try not to use Google Maps as much as I can. I try to understand the real world as I walk around it. And I've noticed like, that is strengthening my ability to navigate. And I worry about LLMs that there are many, many almost sub-perceptual skills and abilities, reasoning abilities, cognitive abilities, writing abilities, reading abilities, these kind of super inefficient things you can't even tell you're doing when you make sense of the world, that I might technological somnambulism my way into losing without even being aware of it. So I don't have it's not that I think that the tool is bad or ineffective. There are certain places where it's superhumanly effective. There's certain places where I'm skeptical of it. There are obviously concerns about people using it for nefarious purposes. There's concerns about LLMs. And there's amazing benefits to this technology. But this is the thing I think about the most, this technological somnambulism piece.
I got a TomTom when I first got my driver's license.
Oh, yeah. Like a GPS?
Yeah. It was an old GPS. And I mean, it was like an early GPS, I guess, whatever, consumer GPS. And so pretty much as soon as I learned how to drive, I was already using a GPS.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I really depend on that when I drive around.
On the QEW?
Yeah. I mean, I can go to frequent spots that I always go every now and then, but I mean it would be hard for me to just go to a new place or something. And
it's not, I guess I don't want to be, read as a Luddite. I'm not saying it's bad that we can't all navigate, because we also can't all grow corn, and only a small percent of the population knows how to do that. And we can't all sew clothes. Some people know how to do that and many people don't. And it's not like we need to reclaim all of the traditional, but it's more what are we choosing to be good at? Totally. People say the world with, the printing press is not the world before the printing press plus the printing press. It's a new world entirely. Mm-hmm. Technology is not additive or subtractive. It's transformative. So it's not what are the harms and what are the benefits of this new tool. It's we're in a new world. So you can't speak about the harms and the benefits of the tool in the new world that the tool created. So I think a lot about that. What are the new worlds being created by various tools, not just large language models, but technologies of any kind. Cell phones, cars, the internet. Dishwashers,
so
bricks.
What do you mean by you can't speak about the harms of the new tools in the new world they created?
So I think a kind of first pass way to talk about technology is to say, what benefits does it have and what negative effects does it have? As though, which that kind of way of talking about things, which is obviously very important, presumes that the world is the same and then we added something to it and then it made some changes, some good, some bad. And the way I think it's more helpful to think about these things is, it's a new world. So it's not that the world without so I think about cars a lot. Mm-hmm. It's not that when you introduced the car, we got this good thing. People can now drive down the Don Valley Parkway. People can now drive to state parks and go look at beautiful scenery. Mm-hmm. Bad thing, commuting. State parks that people can drive to and commuting are a response to the existence of the car. Does that make sense? So it's a bad thing, traffic jams. Well, it's traffic jams are part of the new world that the car creates.
Yeah.
So it's not that there was some unrelated bad thing. It's the world now has good qualities and bad qualities because of the existence of this thing, but it's a new world. It's the new world that this technology enables. So it's hard to think in that way. Yeah.
It is. And these AI computational techniques or whatever, this is definitely a new world.
In some ways, yeah. In some, I'm not, I try to keep myself very measured and tempered when it comes to the hype and the excitement surrounding AI. I think there are many ways in which this is a new world.
Why do you do that?
Why do I keep myself measured and tempered?
Yeah.
I think the history of the field of AI is one marked by a lot of big promises and big ideas, and one marked by a lot of extraordinary feats of branding and marketing that make certain things appear bigger than they in fact are, or different than they in fact are. Oftentimes things are very big, but not for the reasons that they appear. So from the earliest days, even the term artificial intelligence was kind of a marketing tool by John McCarthy to attract people to this first conference in 1956 at Dartmouth University. They were trying to come up with a name for this conference, and he thought artificial intelligence would be a flashy name. Even that term, artificial intelligence, I think like one of the great challenges that we have as people who try to understand what we mean by AI is to disentangle this term, artificial intelligence. It's a very loaded term, feels very complicated. We don't really refer to other kinds of tools with that kind of language, especially other kinds of digital tools. You know, in the 80s, it was called expert systems. Even using the word expert, you know, is kind of, there's a move there. So it's hard to slice through the hype kind of and understand like what are these technologies doing on the practical level. Even words like AGI, artificial general intelligence, when these things start to get spoken about as though they have some bearing on like, you know, the nature of intelligence or the nature of humanity or transhumanism, it's very loaded, right? So I try to avoid all that and just understand like on the purely practical level, what are these tools doing?
Practical level, what do they do?
We've got the page for the history of AI open. I mean, you know, there are many different kinds of machine learning algorithms, as you know. Oh, we've got the history of the perceptron, neural networks. You know, neural networks are really the first kind of approach. There's a lot to talk about here. I need a little. We maybe need a little snack break. Can we do a little snack break before we talk about AI?
Yeah.
Is that allowed? Or maybe a refill of the water?
Yeah.
Can we listen to a 3-minute? Robbie, do we have Spotify or YouTube? Can we listen to a 3-minute song by Kubla while I refill my water?
I'm on it.
Thank you. Is that all right?
Yeah. We're going to be here for 12 hours. Just getting warmed up.
Absolutely.
We need candy.
Jujubes? Wait, is there Kubla?
I'm working on it, yeah. Do you have a song preference?
Just whatever. I do have a favorite song.
A lot of these recent ones are covers.
He's so good.
Missing You?
No, Running Loose.
Running Loose? YouTube music. Oh, wait.
Okay.
You
Where
want
do I
some
get the water?
right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll get you some water.
What time is it? How are we doing so far?
It's been an hour.
Hour 15 in. All right, not bad. Not bad at all. Is it on?
Yeah.
We're listening to it?
Yeah. Oh, I muted your thing, though. Oh, can you hear it? Yeah.
Turn it up.
The camera's off, though.
Woo! Come on. Are the mics still on or no?
It's on now.
The mics are on?
Oh, wait. Now it's on.
Yeah. This guy Kubla, you got to listen to this. If you're listening to this, look up Kubla. Woo! Oh wow. Do you have like oh you guys. Thank you guys.
Other what? You want candy?
No, other drinks.
There's like
Oh.
bubblies. Yeah.
Yeah, bubbly.
Can I go get one?
Yeah. And non-alcoholic beers. I don't think Canadian. Yeah, I don't think so.
What's that?
I had half of it already.
Oh, are those just for you?
No.
That you're
No. I don't even like those. He's got protein bars.
Do you know this guy? You just met him.
Yeah. I know.
He's really good. He's a great Toronto artist. Oh, we're back. Track's over.
We're not back right now.
Are we on?
We're not on, right? Take your time. Still eating this anyways.
Well, we need another song then.
The camera's off.
If we're not talking, then we need another tune.
Just maybe be mindful if you could keep your water on your right side.
Oh, okay. Maybe play Move On. Can you play Move On? Just more intermission tunes. That Running Loose, I think that's my favorite. Look at that. Recognize that? Woo!
It's a cool music video. I can't hear my headphones.
Oh, are we back? I can't hear me either.
I'm keeping it muted until you want to go
Yeah.
back.
Anyway. Thank you, Kubla.
Test. test. I don't hear my headphones.
Yeah, I have it muted until you want
Oh,
to
yeah,
go back.
muted?
Yeah.
Oh.
Should we start going back?
You want to get back into it?
Yeah.
Fade out.
Ooh, a little fade out. Clean.
All right.
One sec.
History. Oh, perfect. I can
One sec.
hear myself. History of AI.
We're back.
All right, one sec.
Oh, we're not back.
Yeah.
Ooh, there we go.
Yeah.
Welcome back.
Artificial intelligence, AGI, they're loaded terms. What is in a simple way, at a high level, what is the history of AI?
Oh, wait, sorry, Ben. Can you move your laptop to your left?
Oh, me?
Yeah.
Yeah.
What is the history of AI? Well, it's a good question and a complicated question. The term AI originates from the 1950s with this conference held at Dartmouth University that I think many people have heard of. It brought together many of the luminaries.
Wait, how do you know a lot about this?
I did a master's degree on this subject.
Right.
And I taught a course at McMaster University on the history of AI.
Cool.
You can actually listen to my lectures. The course was called Innovate 103. It's actually on Spotify. Innovate
Z103.
103 Z1035. No, it's 1Z03. There you go.
That's funny.
That was the course code at McMaster. But if you looking for a fun elective, it's on Spotify. Oh yeah, that was the. I mean, it hasn't been offered in many years, but excuse me. If you go to Spotify, there we go. My lectures are, I put them up for free. So you can listen to all of my lectures about the history of AI. Or about the kind of social issues. Now, to be clear, this is from whenever, 2020. A lot of it's dated. A lot has changed. But the history, 1770 to 1973 has not changed. What is the history of AI? Mm-hmm. The term AI was coined in the 1950s for this conference that many of the luminaries in the field that people have heard of, people like John McCarthy, Marvin Minsky, Claude Shannon, a guy named Arthur Samuel. Do we have the list of people who were at the Dartmouth workshop? Nathaniel Rochester.
Are considered some of the founding fathers.
These are considered some of the founders of the field of AI. But can we go to Ray Solomonoff? He's a very important guy too. But can you go to my Twitter, Newell, Simon and Shaw? There's so much to talk about, and I want to set it up right. Robbie, do you mind going to my Twitter? Because I think I tweeted an image of how I think about the history of AI.
Maddie J612.
Maddie J.
612.
612. Thank you.
612. Yeah.
Yeah. With respectfully to the other Maddie J's, this is Maddie J612. If we go to media, a few weeks ago, let's scroll down. There we go. Yeah, let's look at that picture. This is a picture I tweeted about the way I think about the history of AI that I think would be useful to talk about. The field that we call AI, that event, 1956 Dartmouth Conference, and much that happened since, was itself influenced by so many academic traditions, government, military initiatives, bureaucratic and corporate initiatives, philosophical ideas, all of which kind of got subsumed into this label, artificial intelligence. And now when we talk about artificial intelligence, we talk about these things, neural networks, big data, these theorem-proving large language models, the applications to which we've put AI systems.
The AI computational techniques that have proven most applicable.
Exactly. And the uses to which we've put those things that are kind of most visible to us. But what is invisible to us is this huge cloud of influences that sits above the field of AI in the first place. I got this image from a historian of science named Michael Mahoney, who did the same thing for computers. Computers were built for all these different contexts to solve very particular kinds of problems. And then they got used for all sorts of other stuff. And then we only talked about them for the other stuff. But it's like computers were built specifically as a tool for war and as a tool for government and as a tool for bureaucracy. But then what they ended up getting used for is video games or video editing or pictures or Twitter or whatever. And so we talk about them as though they are for that, self-expression, or writing, Microsoft Word, or we talk about Steve Jobs and Bill Gates, and that's great. But the tool itself was formed with entirely different purposes in mind. So I like to talk about artificial intelligence in that same vein, doing the kind of archaeology of all the ideas and causes and projects that influence this thing. So all of those people at the Dartmouth conference, what were they concerned about? What were they interested in? They were interested in many different things. For example, Newell, Simon, and Shaw were most interested in solving the problems that come from bureaucracy. Their goal was to kind of make a machine that would solve organizational and bureaucratic administrative burdens. Right? Different people are interested in different things like automated theorem proving or natural language translation. They were interested in translating text, for example, from Russian to English. Why? Because of the Cold War. So this was a tool for military use to be able to understand the enemy, the Soviet Union. So if you asked any of these people what their goals were macroeconomic and corporate. Yeah. It wasn't about like solving intelligence. Yeah. But that kind of has disappeared, right? We don't necessarily talk about it that way anymore. So
what do you make of that?
Well, what I make of that is that if we want to understand what a technology is, we need to understand why it came into existence in the first place, because that has shaped what it is put to use for now. There was an organization called DARPA, Defense Advanced Research Projects Agency, that funded these early research initiatives into what was not quite then called the field of AI. But there's also a lot we need to understand about the way that we talk about these things. For example, reinforcement learning. Reinforcement learning was influenced by something called behaviorism or reinforcement in psychology. Behaviorism is this idea that what matters is not what people think, but the kind of input-output stimulus. So if you want a person to do something, you reward them by giving them a little snack or dinging a little bell when you want them to do something, and then they do it, and then you reward that behavior. And then just by simply nudging people through rewards and punishments, you can influence their behavior. And that is kind of a very anti-cognitive approach. It doesn't really consider as important what is happening in the mind of that person. It almost considers a person a black box input-output machine. And B.F. Skinner and John Watson, who were the founders of behaviorism, did not really spend that much time thinking about thinking as an activity. Then there was something in psychology called the cognitive revolution, where things like memory and learning and understanding were really important. So these histories of psychology factor into what we think about AI. Where do we get that? Theories of intelligence, science and engineering, corporate interests,
Cold War logics.
Cold War logics. That's related to quantification. During the Cold War, and I realize I'm hitting you with this is a very complicated thing that I'm getting into here, and like this kind of mental shift of how to understand a technology in this deep way is a time-consuming thing that we could, we can and will spend a very long time on.
Seems pretty simple to me so far.
That's because you're a genius.
Thanks, man.
Let me put it a different way. It took me a long time to be able to reformulate my understanding of this technology in this way. Cold War logics, what's that about? There's a great book called How Reason Almost Lost Its Mind, about how during the Cold War, the RAND Corporation, Research and Development, RAND, R&D, RAND Corporation was responsible for kind of mapping out these war games with the Soviet Union and almost like looking at the Cold War as a chess game, kind of understanding the enemy as having a kind of fixed board of logical moves they can make, and your team as having a fixed set of logical moves you can make. And there was kind of new kinds of language and strategy games developed around this idea of the Cold War. So, for instance, minimax, maximizing your outcomes, given that your opponent is trying to minimize your outcomes.
Yeah.
So, for example, the best move, so to speak, in a game using a minimax procedure might not be just the best move that you can make that most immediately maximizes your chances, because that move, if your enemy uses it properly, could then go back to bite you. So, for instance, in a game of chess, you don't just want to make the move that immediately improves your best chances without taking into account that your opponent is also very smart. So there's a kind of defensive and an offensive taking place at the same time. But these kinds of game-based logics started to get applied to the very notion of human rationality and war making itself. And so that's this kind of Cold War logic.
Damn.
There was this idea of like mapping the Cold War. The thing I wrote most about in my thesis was about how the kind of metaphors of chess were very popular in the Cold War. And so like I wrote about the importance of game playing in AI. And again, there's so much to get into here. I'm overwhelming myself, but all of those people at the Dartmouth conference, many of them, a large majority of them, were very interested in getting computers to be able to play games like chess. Because that was seen as kind of the pinnacle of human intelligence. Yeah. The smartest thing you could do was be very good at chess, because they all idolized, as mathematicians and computer scientists, people who were very good at chess. Yeah. So if they were trying to build computers that could solve all these complicated social and bureaucratic and war and corporate problems, the best testing ground for that was being able to get the computer to play chess. So Alan Turing and John McCarthy and Arthur Samuel and many of these characters built chess playing programs. Norbert Wiener, none of them were particularly good at chess themselves, but they wanted the computers to be able to play chess. And to this day, we kind of, until AlphaGo in 2015, which is in pretty recent memory in the history of AI, it was viewed that like this was the most impossible thing, playing games, playing chess. We now know that actually on the scale of things, playing chess is very easy. We have had to have a bit of a reformulation of what kinds of things are hard. Yeah. Hard things are navigating the real world. Chess is a fixed game with a fixed board, with fixed rules, time-bound, simple. That's not hard. Hard is navigating real-life environments and taking in complex, messy, unsorted real-world information, both spatially, physically, embodied, and cognitively, and making decisions in all that messiness. Even text, large language models, is easy because part of the work has already been done, because we've taken the messiness of the world and we've textified it, right? What we know is that how'd you get my master's thesis on the screen? Impressive stuff. So also, they got the chess team. They got the British chess team to do some of the code breaking at Bletchley Park when they were trying to do, Alan Turing and the Enigma. So that's some of that. Computing infrastructure, surveillance. A lot of the early uses of AI was like pattern recognition. Computer vision software was for the purpose of recognizing particular people or particular places or particular things. This kind of Cold War stuff. A lot of government surveillance. They were, a lot of the technologies that were developed at Bell Labs. There's this great book about Bell Labs, the Idea Factory. People talk very reverentially, I think, in the tech community about Bell Labs, as they rightly should. Extraordinary amount of innovation. A lot of that innovation was motivated by doing image recognition and surveillance and signal intelligence for the purpose of intercepting, foreign intelligence, or doing facial recognition on people, undesirables.
Bell Labs was funded by the
AT&T.
Oh, and it was not funded by like military.
Bell Labs was a private corporate research lab.
Oh, so it had no government military funding?
I mean, it's all very embedded, because a lot of the I actually don't know. Now that you mention it, what the relationship would have been between like DARPA. But this was a private thing. But the thing is, like, in the same way that Google and OpenAI have government contracts and are very responsive to U.S. government interests, right? Can you just Command F on this page, DARPA or ARPA? Or ARPA without the D? Oh, yeah, okay. Maybe no relation. But a lot of these, a lot of the problems that were coming out of Bell Labs were issues of, so Bell Labs was a private research lab, but, a lot of these technologies.
I just don't understand why they were working on that surveillance thing, because that seems like a defense tech thing.
Well, Okay, so let me give you an example. Jan LeCun, one of the founding fathers of the machine learning revolution, worked for a very long time on MNIST. Can we look up MNIST? MNIST is a very famous data set of numbers.
The MNIST database.
Yeah, so this is a very, very famous database of just letters and numbers. NIST is the National Institutes of Standard and Technology. This is just a training set of handwritten numbers and letters, or even just numbers, handwritten numbers for the purpose of training image processing systems. But the initial impetus was like to do automated like checks, like bank checks, or automated reading of envelopes or addresses. Right. To be able to do some of this like data processing. The impetus for this was coming from people like banks and corporations and the federal government to be able to make, the processing of handwritten data faster. So you could just do it, so like part of the reason we have, machine learning as it exists today, or big data, is to deal with this kind of problem that is like very much inspired by problems in the world that aren't, purely curiosity driven, let's say. So the research being done at Bell Labs or any research facility cannot be separated from like the problems that are interesting in the world, that people want to work on
at that given time.
Exactly. So Jan LeCun first applied the backpropagation algorithm to practical applications. Many of these algorithms had already existed, many of which were being done by researchers funded by DARPA or other private or military supported initiatives. The point of all of this is that many of these researchers, even at Bell Labs, that was a corporation. And so like the work, they were given a lot of leeway to do research as they pleased. And a lot of what is heralded by a lot of people now about the work that went on there is that these researchers were given an extraordinary amount of freedom. At the end of the day, the problems that they're working on were products of the socio-military, political, economic circumstances of their time. And so if we go back to that thing on my Twitter, all of these different things, management and operations research, that's what I was talking about, kind of making the bureaucracy more efficient. Quantification is very, very interesting. One thing that AI requires of us is that everything be able to be put into numbers. Things need to be able to be measured. Information theory is definitely a part of that. Quantification is a big Claude Shannon. One other foundational paper in the history of AI is called What the Frog's Eyes Tells to the Frog's Brain, I believe. What the frog's, if you look at that, tells to the frog. What the frog's eye tells to the frog's brain. This is a very famous McCulloch and Pitts paper, Jerome Letvin. So look at this. This is a paper from 1940. Optic nerve. This was an important paper in a field that kind of preceded what we think of as AI, called cybernetics. Cybernetics came from this guy Norbert Wiener, and it was the study of what he would call command and control, understanding control systems. So the classic example is, the thermometer. If the room gets too hot, the thermometer takes notice and cools the room down. If the room is too cool, the thermometer takes notice and heats the room up. This is a kind of feedback loop control system. Cybernetics was dedicated to understanding kind of these systems of command and control across many different domains, understanding things like feedback and resonance and control systems in biological systems, in military systems, in social systems, in psychological systems. So it's kind of this overarching framework, and doesn't really exist anymore as like a singular discipline. But cybernetics was extremely impressive as a kind of an organizational framework to bring a lot of researchers together at this thing called the Macy conferences. If you want to feel like conspiratorial about people, look up who was attending the Macy conferences, because many of the luminaries scientifically, John von Neumann and now I forget the name of these some of the leading figures in anthropology. Jane Goodall participated in some of these kind of cybernetic conferences. There's a name of an anthropologist. If we look up the Macy conferences, I'll be able to find if we look up some of the people who went. But there was a lot of it was kind of can you look up Margaret Mead, very, very, very famous anthropologist.
Interesting.
She was a super important. So it's one of these things where sometimes these initiatives attract wide ranges of people for reasons that, looking back, it's like kind of unclear based on the mission statement. I like to think about in the present day something like effective altruism. Effective altruism as a movement might one day be looked back on as like, these people wanted to do the most good. Mm-hmm. And you look at all the people who are touched by that or involved in that. That included transhumanists and animal rights activists and AI safety people. And it's kind of like maybe unusual looking coalition from the perspective of the future. But it's like they were united under this heading that maybe one day won't really make sense, but it was a kind of governance principle, like an overarching philosophical principle that brought all these people together. So cybernetics was that for this group of people. All of this is to say, I've talked about so many different things, right? The corporate research labs and the military surveillance and the cybernetics and the philosophies of intelligence and psychology and behaviorism versus cognitivism.
Totally.
All of this is being brought to bear on what we call AI.
Totally.
AI is just kind of a label for almost any tool or technology or idea or system that is incorporating all of these different influences into it that happens to be built by a particular research and academic community starting in the 1950s. But all of those ideas predate it, and all of those ideas continue today. To
influence it.
Signal intelligence continues, pattern recognition continues, machine learning continues, theoretical statistics continues. The cognitive science of whatever intelligence continues, bureaucracy continues, all of those things continue. And so when I think about AI, a lot of the thinking is like, okay, what uses are these tools being put towards? Whose interests are they serving? What do they actually do? Where do they intervene in the system? And that question is like a lot more complicated than a kind of, 101 AI ethics or, AI conversation suggests. The quantification thing, if I can do one more, is really interesting. I mean, histories of quantification are really important. Some of the crucial names among the historians who've researched this are Lorraine Daston, Ian Hacking, Will Derringer. Anyway, the history of quantification, Theodore Porter, the history of quantification is the following. Why did people just start counting so much, right? So there was a kind of revolution that is ongoing that started maybe 300 or 400 years ago, even preceding the Enlightenment, where keeping meticulous track of everything and believing that everything can be measured. So for example, the invention of probability as a concept is a great example. What does it mean to put a number to the likelihood of an outcome? What does it mean to say there's a 30% chance that it's going to rain tomorrow? That's a kind of normal sounding sentence. But if you the more you think about it, we are putting numbers onto things that maybe don't deserve them. Valuations of companies, valuations of land. The idea that things can be measured and sorted and given numbers is actually a fairly new invention. And so this list of books and list of authors that I've published are very interested in this idea of, the idea of GDP, the idea of measuring productivity in numbers, the idea of measuring property values in numbers, the idea of doing insurance, putting the value of your life a number. Insurance companies and banks and governments have kind of worked together for many, many centuries to numerify everything, right? We see that with crypto. A lot of what crypto is the intention of kind of making a lot of things highly, highly legible by making them quantified. Totally. And so a lot of these books talk about how giving things numbers gives them a sense of legitimacy. If you can put a number onto something, it makes it real. A lot of AI requires that because the way AI systems work is by taking in data, transforming those data into vectors. Vectors are manipulable, numerical, mathematical objects. And then, so what happens to the world when it's kind of vectorized and quantified in that way? So quantification is a big piece of that. And that too is a much, much longer story. I was talking about effective altruism. That's largely about can we measure charitable good? Can we measure the impact of certain initiatives, evidence-based things? These things, maybe in talking about them in this way makes it seem like I'm saying they're bad. They're not bad. They're just part of the story and they're very easily neglected. So that there is my very lengthy answer to your question of what is artificial intelligence. It's the kind of intentional coalescing of all these different threads by a group of, researchers, scientists, engineers, and technologists under a kind of branding label artificial intelligence over the last 75 years.
The quantification element is interesting because it's like, you know, if you're going in a direction where the only way to use these AI, these like new functional abilities that AI enables is to represent everything in the real world in some way.
Right.
Then you start to move into a world where if things aren't represented, they don't exist, which is different than the world that we currently live in now. Mm-hmm. It's like we understand that not everything is represented, you know, but as more and more of it's represented, I could imagine a culture that forgets that things aren't represented. Also, Robbie, do you think you could get me a glass, please? We only have one. I need some water. Sorry.
I hear you loud and clear.
Sorry, Robbie.
I mean, so much of the labor. Are we still on? Or are we paused?
Yeah, we're still on.
Oh, yeah. So much of the labor currently involved in AI, this most recent wave, big data, machine learning. So maybe I should take one step back, which is that there have been very many different waves in the history of AI around which kinds of techniques are most predominant. Mm-hmm. In the beginning, you know, there was this idea of logical systems, and then there was this idea of perceptrons or neural networks. And there were kind of two schools of thought. Do we want to model the brain, mm-hmm. or do we want to model the mind? What do I mean by that? The mind works through processes of logic and reason, thinking, memory. So you don't know how your brain works, right? Yeah. You don't know experientially, you don't know what a neural network is. That is how your brain works, but you don't know that. When we teach kids about reading and writing and math and thinking and logic and science, we're kind of training the mind. So there's this idea like, let's get the computers to learn let's teach the computers the rules of grammar. Let's teach the computers, you know, how to reason, make certain types of inferences. Yeah. You know, if A then B, A therefore B, modus ponens, you know, that's like ancient Greek syllogistic reasoning. And then have the computers reason about the world. The opposite of that is, well, what if we developed a system that just took in a ton of information and then made inferences on its own, learned from patterns, and did pattern recognition of its own kind in some kind of way? So that's a kind of more big data, probabilistic, neural network, perceptron, you know, instrumentalist, many different types of language to refer to that kind of technique. These kinds of approaches came to a head. They were the different, you know, kind of schools of thought in the 1940s, 50s. Obviously, this is way more complicated than I'm making it seem. People talk about the book Perceptrons, written by Marvin Minsky and Seymour Papert. That book is believed to have kind of caused a blow to this neural network school of thought, because these were like single layer neural networks that couldn't process information in the way that our big data neural networks do now, with many, 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 many layers. That's not what caused the first, what we call AI winter. The first AI winter, so to speak, was caused by, in part, something called the Lighthill Report. A scientist by the names of James Lighthill was tasked by the British government to write a commission. The British government basically asked, should we continue to fund this thing called AI? And Lighthill basically said, this is a great, can we go to this ABC? Lighthill basically said, your field AI doesn't mean anything. What are you trying to do? Go back down to the content. Sorry, content, yeah. Advanced automation, character recognition, mechanical component design, manufacture. So this is like, we already have a field called automation. You know, like making the arms that can build cars for you. That's a thing. If you want to do that, just do that. Central nervous system, computational models of the human brain, neurobiology and behavior. That's already a thing too. We can study the human brain. And then he's like, what you're trying to do is do those two things at the same time. You're trying to model the brain in order to do this thing we already have, which is like electrical engineering, control systems engineering. These fields already exist. Your field isn't anything, AI. And so it doesn't need to exist. And then he marshaled all this evidence of all these grandiose claims that have been made by all of these AI researchers about how good the computers would be at chess. that had basically all failed. He's like, look at you. You're all talking about the computers will be able to speak fluent English in 5 years, and the computers will beat a grandmaster in chess in 2 years. And, there's all these big promises, and none of it came true. So he basically advised the British government to stop. We don't need to be funding this area of research anymore. But that's not to say that, like, it's worth remembering that this field, AI, was and still is a minuscule thing within computing as a field, right? So there's electrical engineering, control systems engineering, and there's computational linguistics, and there's computational neurophysiology and neurobiology, and there's the people who work on operating systems, and the people who work on hardware for computers, and the people who work on graphical user interfaces. None of that is changed by the status of AI. AI is this kind of other thing that is kind of a branding thing that is incorporating all of those activities, but kind of doing its own thing, right? Even if we look at, where someone like, Jeff Hinton was working, it's like he was considered a cognitive psychologist, or David Rummelhard or McClelland. We're skipping ahead in the story a little bit. Let me get ahead of myself. I don't want to get ahead of myself. So we're there in the 1950s, 60s. We've got this kind of two different types of research, into this symbolic systems approach versus this neural network approach. This book Perceptrons is published. That's said to have halted that's said to have put a real dent in the neural network strategy forever. Then we have this Lighthill report. And then over the course of the 70s and 80s, Japan starts investing a lot in this computing technology, and the Americans start to get very nervous about the Japanese advancements in neural network and computational technologies. So there start to be in the early 80s, led by this guy, Ed Feigenbaum, all these books being like, if we don't act now, the Japanese are going to, get on it. So that's when this second wave of research in AI called expert systems began. I will say that this narrative about the waves, people like to talk about AI summers and winters. I kind of don't love that, because a lot of the important research happens during the winters. Some of the most important under the table stuff about image recognition or optical character recognition, the stuff that, or certain kinds of algorithms, is being developed during these winter periods, but it's just not part of the overarching narrative. And so it doesn't get included in what is considered AI. But a lot of the work being done here is being done by people in statistics departments or machine learning departments who aren't part of the funding cuts or not to the field of AI writ large, right? The discipline of computer science continues unabated. The discipline of electrical engineering continues unabated, and very important innovations in signal processing and reinforcement learning or whatever are continuing under that guise. But there's a specific community of researchers who consecrated themselves at Dartmouth, who are the AI research community, who get to write the story. So there's all these other corporations and research groups who are still going just fine. Anyway, that's why the whole AI summer and winter thing is a bit of a challenge. Anyway, this expert systems was very put everything in Wikipedia. When you Google something and it just tells you the answer at the top, that's expert systems. That's considered. The forefathers, in the 1980s would have been absolutely blown away by what we consider totally inconsequential of just asking for facts and figures. When you Google what is Barack Obama's birthday and it tells you, that was their we could, that was the ambition. That seems very quaint to us now, right? Yeah. Clippy in Microsoft Word, it will help you, do your spell check or whatever. The idea of a red squiggly underline under a word telling you that it's spelled wrong, that was expert systems. That was that is an AI assistant who can help you write better. We don't view that as AI now, right? There's this quote, AI is whatever hasn't been done yet. It's that sense in which this kind of the red squiggly line isn't AI anymore, but in the 80s that would have been considered expert systems. The pinnacle attempt at the expert system was the Watson, who participated in Jeopardy and won a game of Jeopardy in 2011, 2010.
Can we see that?
You want to see Watson? Yeah. Watson was very much in the expert systems kind of school of thought.
I think IBM Watson has expanded to this other thing now.
IBM Watson was a little bit of a failure.
It's become this whole other thing.
Oh, yeah? I think it was bought up by some other company and...
It's become a suite of tools.
Oh, yeah?
Can you turn it up? Yeah.
Yeah, so that's very much in the expert
Wait,
systems.
did he win? Let's keep going.
He did. And Ken Jennings wrote on his thing, like, I, for one, love our new computer overlords.
Wait, well, people are freaking out. Wait, go back. What's the score right now? Who are these people cheering? These are like
That's
all the people
IBM
working.
staff.
Oh, he just destroyed everyone.
Go back.
Wait,
Yeah, look at Ken Jennings.
So much more money.
Ken Jennings says, I, for one, welcome our new computer overlords.
But wait, why does he have so much more money than all of them?
Because Watson's
He
whipping
just
a
destroyed
butt.
everybody?
Yeah.
Wait, what was the turning point in this match? Because like they were tied when you stopped it.
I know it was a long game, but yeah, Watson is very
3
much
minutes.
the thing about
I
Watson.
just want to know the turning point. How did it go from no?
What?
How did it go from them being tied to him being like?
I think Watson just did very well. We didn't watch the full match. It's also a multi-day competition.
Oh, it is.
It wasn't just one game. Yeah. I think it was multi-game. But Watson is really kind of an expert system. Like Watson is, you notice Watson is just there to answer like look-upable questions, right?
Yeah.
Watson can't write long sentences. Watson can't reason. Watson can't solve puzzles or whatever like that. It's very much in this expert system school. Anyway, then after expert systems, there's another kind of lull in the research funding. But a lot of important research happens in the 80s and 90s, including a very important event in the 80s, something called the computationalism connectionism debate.
Holy shit.
What?
It's intense.
There's a lot.
Computational connectionism.
Computationalism versus connectionism. Oh, there you go. Man, you're good at this.
Why do people have to have these debates? Why can't they just be like, you go make your own thing, I'll make my own, leave me alone, you know? Like,
it's a good question.
Like why do they have to link up to be like...
The thing is, all of these debates are kind of the same debate.
At the underlying...
They're kind of always the same. So the previous round of this with the kind of logical system versus the neural network perceptron system is the same as this computationalism versus connectionism. It's like, do we want to model it? Part of it. Okay. So let me try to draw out why it's an interesting debate with this example. In the 80s, there was a debate over the following question. How do children learn irrational verbs? Okay, so you know that the past tense of to be is were or was.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Not beed. Right? Most verbs you say, today I walked, yesterday I walked.
Yeah.
But today I drive, yesterday I drove.
Mm-hmm.
Instead of not drived. Today I drink, yesterday I drank. Right? Most verbs aren't like that. Most verbs is just you add ed to the end.
Yeah.
Some verbs are different. How do kids learn? Read, read, not readed. Well, there's two theories about how that could work. Number one is this. As you go about life, you're like a neural network absorbing big data from the world. Kids' brains are these like connectionist systems that are taking in all of these inputs, right? And you're hearing words and then you hear is, was, and you incorporate that into your training data and you get more and more and more data from the world. And then you start to figure out the patterns for yourself based on big data. That's one theory. You don't have any kind of preset structure. It's just like you hear a lot of verbs and then you start imitating them based on what you hear. That's one theory. Here's another theory. The mind is primed in advance to learn a rule about how to conjugate verbs into the past. Much like we were talking about, this is the connection, much like what we were talking about the geometry. Yeah. So why was I doing research in mathematical geometry intuitions? It's because it's all part of the same project of understanding what kinds of knowledge are we born into the world having already. And one theory is kids come into the world with the knowledge that there is something called verbs. They don't use that word, of course, but that there's parts of speech are kind of embedded into the human psyche in advance. And so there's a place in the mind already primed for the conjugation of verbs. And so kids need very few examples, few shot learning to understand. The first time they hear someone say, I walked, right? You talk, I talked. They learn, I've got the rule, ED. You add ED. And then they go out into the world, they start talking, and they start using that word wrong.
Yeah.
So under this theory, you should hear kids using conjugating verbs incorrectly a lot because they have to now learn, first they learn the rule, and then they learn all the exceptions. And the exceptions are reinforced again and again and again through experience.
Yeah.
So this is two theories. One says big data. You get all this data of all these different kinds of words and you adjust all your parameters. And then you just come out with all your correct things. And you would never say, I readed or I drinked, because no one's ever said that to you. So how could you generate words that aren't in the training data? Mm-hmm. Under the second theory, you would say readed and drinked.
Because you have that rule.
Because you have that rule. That's this debate. Yeah. So now this question about child language, irregular verb acquisition, is coming to bear over neural networks versus symbolic approaches.
Damn.
And so
who won this debate? Imagine a debate about this. Just people just being like,
I think that both, I think,
read?
Yeah. So but the question is, how do you even answer that question? You go around studying a lot of children and how they conjugate verbs. You go around just studying, like you go listen to the mistakes children make, right? So it's like, we don't
try to understand how they learn.
Yeah. Right. And that has bearing. Now, here's the real question. And this is kind of the bitter lesson. One of the recent lessons in AI proposed by the neural network people is basically, the bitter lesson is an essay written by machine learning researcher Rich Sutton, who's one of the pioneers of the field of reinforcement learning. The bitter lesson basically says, can we open up the bitter lesson? Yeah, let's open up the bitter lesson.
Oh, damn. What a great website.
The bitter lesson is an iconic essay. And basically what it says is, IDGAF about your computationalism, connectionism debates, the only thing that matters is more data and more compute, right?
Oh, shit. This guy said that?
Yeah. And it's basically like scaling, more computational resources, right?
I feel like I like this guy.
The general methods that leverage computation are ultimately the most effective and by a large margin. So what he's saying is like, how the brain works, irrelevant. There's a line. Every time I fire a linguist, my AI system gets 10% faster. Can you look up the exact line? I'm misquoting that slightly, but that's a line from my fire a linguist. My performance goes up. Yeah. Every time I fire a linguist. So this is like people developing speech recognition technologies, and they have all these linguists on the team trying to figure out the type of stuff I'm talking about how children learn verbs. Yeah. And this guy's saying every time I fire one of these linguists, the performance goes up, because this lesson is how children actually learn. So basically, you're asking who won. I think the people who think that children learn rules won that debate. And what these computer scientists are saying, who cares? Irrelevant for the building of neural networks and large language models and AI systems. All that matters is more data and more compute, bigger and bigger systems, more and more computational power. We can circumvent how humans actually do it. But this debate rages on. Someone like Gary Marcus is like very, very actively, Steven Pinker, these people in the cognitive science camp are still very actively promoting this notion. Even someone like Jan LeCun, this notion that like, something about innate learning still matters. But reinforcement learning, we're going all over the place with this. AlphaGo, AlphaZero. Why is AlphaZero called AlphaZero? That's ultimately what like conquered the game of Go that people thought was so hard. These reinforcement learning only started with the rules of the game and nothing else, right? So we need to go back. We've gotten ahead of ourselves. Can we rewind just a little bit? We need to talk about the history of games, computer chess. In the 90s, there was this very famous match between Deep Blue and Garry Kasparov. Yeah. And
Deep Blue won.
Yeah. It won 1, drew 2, and lost. So, they had several matches, and there was at some point these computers became better than the humans. But these computers were not, neural network computers in the way they are now. They had several. The second match was the first defeat of a reigning world chess champion by a computer under tournament conditions. 1997.
Yeah.
So this was not like so definitive. There were still several games where Kasparov would beat the computer after. Yeah. This wasn't these like now no one can beat, you know.
Yeah. And they were also saying around this time that like I think when these AI systems got good at chess, they were saying but it could never win in Go.
Totally.
The number of total possible moves are far greater than in chess.
Exactly. And that's called the combinatorial explosion. That was one of the main reasons James Lighthill in that report said that we should cut funding to AI because you will always face this problem of the combinatorial explosion. There were just so many possibilities.
Yeah. I think in Go, the game of Go, I heard that there's more possible moves than there are atoms in the universe.
For sure. How's
that possible?
By a very wide margin.
How is that possible?
Can we fact check that?
And how can you get good at a game like that?
That's a great question.
Okay, forget a computer. It's like, how can a human even get good at the game like that?
Yeah, there we go. It's so huge that it's not even close. It's like not even. It's not even funny.
Possible games in Go is astronomically large, estimated at around. What does that say?
10 to the power of 170
board states, far exceeding the number of atoms in the observable universe.
Totally.
How do they know how many atoms are in the observable universe?
That's a good question. I don't know.
That's fucking crazy. They're just like 10 to 80. It's like, what the fuck?
You're right. I don't know.
I couldn't even count the Toronto Islands properly.
I think here we go.
Scientists estimate the number of atoms through several calculations. Observable universe size. The observable universe has a radius of about 46.5 billion light years, giving a volume of roughly 4 times 10 to the power 10 to 80 cubic meters. I don't know shit. You can tell. Matter density. From cosmic microwave background radiation and other observations, we know ordinary matter makes up about 4.9% of the universe's total energy density, with an average density of about 0.25 protons per cubic meter. How the fuck can you know that?
Well,
total protons equal 10 to the 80. Since hydrogen, 1 proton dominates. Oh, so they're working backwards from the gases? But then how do they even know that? And heavier elements add more particles. Total atoms 10 to 78 minus 10 to 82. Key measurements: Hubble constant expansion rate, cosmic microwave background temperature fluctuations, Type 1a supernova observations, Big Bang nucleosynthesis predictions. 10 to 80 is widely cited, but represents ordinary matter only. Dark matter and dark energy comprise 95% of the universe, but aren't counted as atoms. So they have no fucking clue how many are in their observable. That's what they're basically saying. There's no one fucking knows. Nobody knows, because this is like based on.
It's all estimates.
It's all estimates. Like this is based on the Big Bang nucleosynthesis predictions.
Totally. Yeah, I mean they're not counting them like we are counting the Toronto Islands. But
no,
all this is to say, going back to Go, there are just an absurdly, just stupid number of possible games of Go. If we go back to the Kasparov Deep Blue, Blue Origin is another one of those computers. Those aren't based on neural networks in the ways that the modern day ones are now. Those were often based on training. Oh, sorry. They did involve some amount of neural networks, but they were often based on training data from past successful chess games. One of the revelations of the recent reinforcement learning wave, led by Rich Sutton, among other people, was don't bog these computers down with past chess games. Just have them play against themselves again and again and again, and then use reinforcement learning to kind of gently nudge itself in the direction of the winningest version of itself. So like you have it play against itself, and then it's not prejudiced by our whole human history of like types of chess moves that you might make in the past.
It can kind of invent its own play style.
Exactly. And so that's why.
And that's how you get to move 37.
Exactly. So
in AlphaGo.
There you go.
The hand of God.
Exactly. So, but it is an interesting question. It's a genuinely interesting question that you're asking. Given that there are so many possible plays, how is it possible that any human can play the game of Go or chess, right? Given that there's more possible moves in Go or moves in chess than atoms in the observable universe, how do you even do this? The answer is heuristics, which is a term coined by Herb Simon, who was one of the very early people we were talking about.
Really? In AI?
Yes.
Really?
I was mentioning Simon, Newell, and Shaw.
Heuristics?
Herb Simon was one of the people at the Rand Corporation I was mentioning earlier. He was one of the people who viewed one of the purposes of AI as simplifying bureaucracy. He invited the term heuristics and he invited the term satisficing to mean, because he was interested, he was an economist and he was very interested in studying how people make decisions under constraints. And so there we go. Satisficing is like doing the best you can under the circumstances, right? You're never going to be perfect until searching through the available alternatives until acceptability threshold is met without necessarily maximizing any specific objectives. Heuristics is another, heuristic satisficing is basically using kind of a rule of thumb, right? You can't have a definitive algorithmic procedure, but you can kind of have a basic rule of thumb to know, okay, in this situation, maybe I'll do something like this. In this situation, I'll do something like that. That's the idea of heuristics. Satisficing. That's Herb Simon's idea. So that's what all of us are doing all the time when you're playing a game of chess. You know, for instance, when you teach people chess, they think capture the center, you know, don't put your knights on the edge of the board, you know, develop your pieces. These are heuristics. They're not hard fixed rules. And in fact, many great chess games and players have violated those principles. You know, AlphaGo or AlphaZero loves to move its, you know, edge, you know, A file and F pawns all the way out to the edge, which is considered like bad protocol for human chess players. But those aren't part of the heuristic. So the point is, when we look at a chessboard, we aren't really seeing everything. You have to really quickly, what's called pruning. You have to really quickly cut a bunch of the options. Totally. So at any given time, you're not really looking at all the options. You're doing a lot of cutting down. And a lot of the problems that's hard for you know, for instance, self-driving cars is, what are you cutting? When you look at the world, there's so much to see, right? The brain is only taking in so much. You can't really take in your whole environment at all times, right? We use predictive processing. The brain, you know, isn't really taking in everything. It's kind of, it's what you perceive is in some ways based on what you expect to perceive. And so you perceive things that make it seem like reality is continuous or whatever. You're not really perceiving reality perfectly as it actually is.
Have you ever played Go?
Like only very, very casually, informally. Not in a serious way. You have?
No, have you?
Oh, yes.
Yeah, okay, cool.
Have you?
A little bit.
Yeah. It's hard. It's a very complicated game. And you need a lot of heuristics and a lot of training to be good at it. But anyway, you know, this victory of chess, people thought was like, oh my God, this is the be all and end all, you know, but then things move on. And just because you can beat Garry Kasparov at chess doesn't mean that now computers are better than, you know, humans. We've not achieved artificial general intelligence or anything like that. So things continue. Now, the next major milestone in this kind of traditional history of AI is what happened here in Toronto, ImageNet, AlexNet. There's a competition called ImageNet, which is, you know, different computer systems doing this image recognition competition. And then Jeffrey Hinton, Alex.
The ImageNet project is a large visual database designed for use in visual object recognition software research. More than 14 million images have been hand annotated by the project to indicate what objects are pictured, and at least 1 million of the images bounding boxes are also provided. AI researcher Fei-Fei Li.
Shout out Fei-Fei Li.
That name sounds familiar.
She's an icon in the field.
Fei-Fei Li began working on idea for ImageNet in 2006, at a time when most AI researchers focused on models and algorithms. Li wanted to expand and improve the data available to train AI algorithms. The data available. In 2007, what's this? On September 12th, on September 30th, 2012, a convolution neural network called AlexNet achieved a top 5 error of 15.3% on the ImageNet 2012 challenge, more than 10.8% points lower than that of the runner-up. Using convolution neural networks was feasible due to the use of graphics processing units during training, GPUs, an essential ingredient of the deep learning revolution. Damn.
That was in Toronto.
Why are GPUs so essential to the core of this?
Why are GPUs essential? This is,
oh shit.
I can say in very, very vague terms, but I honestly cannot claim to understand it. Oh, now you're emailing Jeff Hinton. Let's say, hey dude, we're talking about you. Why are GPUs essential? Well, because my understanding, which is very limited, and people who know more than me will sound off in the comments to explain why I'm wrong. I just think that you can just do way more processing power. I just think that these like graphical processing units, I just think that like putting graphics on a screen is very, very, very computationally intensive. And so the systems that were developed to do like for video games and for, you know, that kind of graphical processing.
Is there a YouTube video of this? I feel like there's gotta be.
Sure. Are just way more sophisticated than the standard processing like chips. And so they're just you can just use them towards this more. This was not the purpose they were initially put to though.
Totally.
You can just you just get way more bang for your buck.
They were made
massive
by,
parallel
ATI,
computation.
ATI and Markham.
GTA only. Study the history of AI with GTA companies and people only. Easy.
Yeah. Crazy. GPUs excel at deep learning because neural networks require massive parallel computation, which matches GPU architecture perfectly. GPUs have thousands of cores versus CPUs, dozens. Ideal for matrix operations that dominate neural network training, millions of weights updated simultaneously.
At some point, we need to talk about how neural networks work, but I don't think that's the occasion for now. The best introductory video is 3 Blue, 1 Brown. You can watch 3 Blue, 1 Brown video to understand how neural networks work. But yeah, GPUs are...
I think I understand how they work.
Yeah. No, not for you, for the audience. Yeah. Anyway.
I feel like they understand.
Oh yeah, you think we probably have GPU savvy viewers. Anyway, when AlexNet won the ImageNet competition, this was a very big deal because it was kind of the launch of convolutional neural networks and neural network tools as a kind of totally viable tool for this kind of problem solving. That was not the major mode. But again, like I was saying, these kinds of technologies were being used, you know, MNIST by Department of Defense, by military, by Bell Labs, by research facilities for decades prior. So again, these things have a history. This is just when it kind of burst into the public consciousness that like deep neural networks which Jeff Hinton, mind you, had been working on for a very long time. He had written this book with Rumelhart and McClelland in the 80s, Parallel Distributed Processing. This is the debate about irregular verbs. Jeff Hinton was a core member of that discussion. This Rumelhart and McClelland book from the 80s is like essential. One of the problems is, per the bitter lesson, is that the computers of the 80s just simply were not strong enough to do this kind of thing, right? So what happened here was like a perfect storm of just like way more computational power, the existence of GPUs that could do this like huge quantity of matrix multiplication required to train a huge neural network like this. I mean, at the end of the day, a huge neural network like this just like is like just taking pixel by pixel data, right, from this training set of images and just multiplying matrices pixel by pixel to like train the weights of this huge input-output machine. It's just like an unbelievable quantity of computation, just super computationally expensive. And this was just not possible in the 80s computationally. So what Rich Sutton is saying in The Bitter Lesson is like, at the end of the day, what mattered for all of this is just more computational resources. And when we were able to execute these ideas on bigger and bigger systems, that's what made these, you know, devices more and more, it's kind of, you know, neglecting a little bit some of the intellectual lineage or like the actual, you know, kind of philosophical debates over what this means. But this was definitely a big deal. And this kind of re-legitimated neural networks as an approach. Another very underrated event in this history is the Netflix challenge. Can we look up the Netflix challenge? Is kind of often a little bit forgotten in this history, but it was also very important. The Netflix prize.
Oh, the Netflix prize.
Do you know about the Netflix prize? No. The Netflix prize was basically a call put out by Netflix saying, can you develop a better algorithm than the one that we have for recommending movies to people?
That's cool.
So we're going to give you all of our training data about all the things that people watch. And if you win, you get to, and so what was the name of the,
what do you get if you win?
What's that?
What do you get if you win? $1 million? Damn.
There you go.
What year was this?
2006 to 2009. So this is pre-AlexNet. So again, this is early 2000s AI history. But what was can we look up what the nature of the, they used a kind of,
like
what's it called? What's that?
Who won?
Oh, it was like a coalition, Can we see, what was the name of the company that won? Belcor's Pragmatic Chaos, Pragmatic Theory. They used a kind of ensemble model, which is to say they used many different kinds. This was the kind of innovation where they took many, many different kinds of neural network techniques together. You know, modern day neural networks, if you look up the architecture of a neural network, it's extraordinarily complicated. There's so many different layers doing different things, you know?
Can we see?
Taking these images. Convolution is like its own kind of mathematical process. I mean, can we look up the architecture of a neural network? Deep NN, that's, deep neural network architecture. This is very vague. Like we need to look at a big stack. No. Oh, wow. Max pooling, all this max pooling. That's just trying to take, this is what it looks like. You're basically taking large swaths of data and then you're doing transformations on them and then you're kind of aggregating those things. You know, it's the like simplest, the like most simplified way to understand this is like if you took a picture with a lot of pixels and then you like averaged the value of every pixel to the one beside it, you would have like 50% of the number of pixels, but you would keep the like aggregate information. That's a very, very loose way of describing that. But even if you look at like, you know, attentional models, Q learning, large language models, the way that they're trained, the number of steps in the large language model architecture is just like huge. And those are hodgepodges. I mean, again, in today's terms, this is still very simple relative to like what OpenAI is doing. But each of these things represents decades of innovation, right? Any given one of those layers took 15 years at Bell Labs to figure out, right? Or 15 years at Stanford, or 15 years at Cornell or Princeton or wherever these research facilities, or at the University of Toronto. Shout out to CFAR funding Jeff Hinton's research. Jeff Hinton came to Canada because he was escaping the Ronald Reagan government because he was worried that this like AI research was going to be used for military purposes in the US. So in the 80s, he came to Canada where he was funded by CFAR.
They funded him through like that quote unquote AI winter.
Yes.
Right.
Yes. And Canada believed in this thing in part because Toronto was the first city to do automated traffic lights based on the number of cars at a given stop. Did you know that?
Yeah, I heard about that.
Oh, really?
Recently, yeah.
Did I say that or did someone else say that? I don't know.
Maybe it was you.
I don't know. I would be very interested in whoever was the other person who said that. I want to talk to them.
Yeah. I think it might just be me.
It could be.
Yeah.
I'd be very interested in talking to you.
You know, the CFAR thing.
Yeah.
How long did we fund this for? Like how long were we funding like Jeff Hinton?
We're still funding that. There was a huge additional in around 2015 to 2017. CFAR put in on another huge set of research chairs in AI, and we are going to continue to do that indefinitely. So
what does the CFAR do?
CFAR is the Canadian Institute for Advanced Research. They're just like I don't actually know the like governance structure. I do know Alan Bernstein. He's one of the leaders of CFAR, but I think they receive money from, I believe it's like a private-public partnership, but I don't know. I don't want to say things that I don't know, but in terms of where the money comes from, and it's their job to just invest in academic research, and they give money to endow professorships and support research, and they have many different like research programs across many different areas of science, and they supported Jeff Hinton throughout the 80s. I was giving a walking tour, and as I was talking about this fact that Jeff Hinton came to Canada, I was talking about Jane Jacobs, who is a famous American activist who helped stop the construction of some of the highways in New York City. She moved to Toronto because she didn't want her family to get enlisted in the Vietnam War. So I was talking about other examples of famous Americans who came to Canada to escape, the kind of bellicose war nature of the United States. And I said, like Jeff Hinton. And then out of the corner of my eye, Jeff Hinton literally appeared walking down Cedar Ravine. So on my tour, Jeff Hinton just like showed up, and I said, Jeff, thank you for being here. Is it true that you left America to escape Ronald Reagan and war? He said, yes. I said, okay, thanks. Enjoy your walk. So he just confirmed. Can we look up Hidden Rivers Tours, that's Jeff crazy. Hinton? So that really happened. That was like the craziest thing that's ever happened to me on a tour. He just showed up totally at random.
Did you ask me the question?
That's not. Oh, there we go.
Who's the woman beside him that was just with him?
That's Rosemary Gardner.
The woman beside him?
Yes.
Oh, who's that?
That's a person. Oh, wow. Chris was there. Many people were there. Wow. I think it's probably not. But anyway.
Who is Rosemary Gardner?
Rosemary Gardner is a professor at the University of Toronto of criminology.
That's cool.
Anyway, there he is.
I have a cool photo of Jeff Hinton too.
With you?
No.
Oh. From Toronto Tech Week?
Go to my profile, and if you go to articles,
yeah,
there's like an AI. You'll see. I guess you gotta go to Internet Van.
Oh, where's the search, bro?
Yeah.
Sorry, the window's messed
The
up.
tour that I was giving that Jeff Hinton showed up on was a tour of the Spadina Expressway. I'm serious.
Articles.
Oh, wow.
That one, yeah.
There we go.
Go down.
How do you make these pictures? Oh, sick. That's good. I like that.
Jeff Hinton in the West End.
I see that. That's iconic. How do you make these images?
This is just Midjourney.
Oh, you're using Midjourney. Very nice. What is the prompt to get the image that is your profile picture on Twitter?
So that's not AI.
Okay.
That's from a manga called Vagabond.
Oh, okay.
Which is based off of it's from here.
Okay. Oh, wow.
Which is based off of a book, a historical fiction. Called Musashi. Which was written by starts with an E. Can you look up the Musashi book? Yeah, that's it. E.G. Yoshikawa novel Musashi. You can click that. Yeah, so it's based off this. It's literally almost like a 1-to-1. It's just like a manga interpretation of the book. This book was it was a historical fiction on the life of Miyamoto Musashi, and it was released as a series, I think, in a newspaper.
Okay.
So it's a fictionalized. Yeah, it was originally released as a serial in the Japanese newspaper, Asahi Shimbun.
Who is the character that is your photo?
Musashi.
Okay. That's like the main guy?
Yeah. He's a Japanese swordsman, strategist, artist, and writer who became renowned through stories of his unique double-bladed swordsmanship and undefeated record in 62 duels. Miyamoto is considered Kensei, a sword saint of Japan. He was a founder of Nito Ichi Ryo, style of swordsmanship, and in his final years authored the Book of Five Rings.
Cool.
Yeah.
Why were you inspired enough by this person to make him your digital avatar?
I think the thing that's like cool with him is that, or like my interpretation of his story was like he was always ready to like learn from all styles. And he was always willing to like stay committed to his path of like becoming like a good swordsman, like no matter what that meant, you know? And yeah.
That's a cool picture. I love that picture.
You see, yeah. And just the idea like of using two swords, like I think he was inspired by like watching like a Japanese drummer, and then he just started watching the hands movements.
Oh, really?
And I think like at the time there was a lot of like structure and rules around how you can like the schools of thought and the way that you practice being a swordsman or samurai. And so it's like one sword, you know?
Mm-hmm.
But then he would look at a drummer and be like, oh damn, he's like operating these two things. Maybe I could incorporate that somehow into yeah. And so for me it's just like I think like it's like just learning from different people, taking from what's like understanding what's special about them and then integrating it into my own style.
Yeah.
Is like something that's like really important to me.
Yeah.
And then also just like learning from like, just like like learning from a real life of living, you know, not necessarily just like reading books or something, but like learning, not even also learning because of like some status or something like that, but learning just to be like this wandering person, you know. And then I just thought it was also like funny because like you're just this fucking samurai walking around Mississauga, like the idea of something like that in my head, you know?
Yeah. Just
like going and trying to find the best empanadas. You know what I mean? Like, I just thought it was like, it's just funny.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's just, there's this kind of thing on Twitter where like there's like these profiles of people making interesting technology with these like anime based profile pictures. And I just think that's like very interesting pattern. If you look up, if you type up how to understand, how to read comics, and then look up, you see yourself, how to read comics, you see yourself, and then you see a face, images. No. Face. Type in face at the end of the thing. Is it how to read? Yeah, first image. Open this up big. Actually, there's a go back. Actually, there's like a whole bit on this. Go third.
Oh yeah, I see that.
Third row, last column. Let's see this. Yeah, let's look at this whole comic thing here. You'll have to like zoom in at the top. So go up to the top. So each one also sustains a constant awareness of his or her own face, but this mind picture is not nearly so vivid, just a sketchy arrangement, a sense of shape, a sense of general placement. Something as simple and as basic as a cartoon. Thus, when you look at a photo or realistic drawing of a face, you see it as the face of another. But when you enter the world of the cartoon, you see yourself. And this was like really interesting. When I first read this, I thought it was really interesting, this idea that you can abstract elements out of identities and it changes the way that identity is perceived. I thought that was very interesting in terms of like, I saw it in like some music videos. I saw it in the way like culture was changing and evolving, how people could extract elements of themselves away, and then it would become, when you took elements away, it created space to accept. I don't know how to explain it, to accept the audience in. And so with like these anime pictures on, like with these anime characters on Twitter, and even like with mine, it's kind of like abstracting some elements of who I am away and keeping some elements and to become this new kind of a person, you know, where you're not necessarily always seeing the face of another, but maybe you're in some ways, I don't know how to explain it, but yeah, it was a bit of this too. I was experimenting a lot with what it meant to operate an identity on the internet. Like if you think about like Twitter, right? It's not, there's like a profile at the top and then there's a bio and then there's like your tweets. You're working within that contained structure, that your identity is expressed through that contained structure. So you're kind of operating this identity, right? This avatar of yourself. And so I wanted to understand like what was possible if I kind of changed that avatar and played with it in some other way.
You didn't always have that?
No.
Did you have another character before?
Yeah, I think like maybe about like 8 years ago, I started experimenting with the idea of using these avatars. And then, I got more and more serious about them as my understanding of storytelling and of like the internet and like improved. And then I started pushing and playing with it more. I think, yeah, you know,
is it like,
so I think like, for example, if you go to your profile, it's your face, you know, and that's what people see.
Well, sort of.
Yeah.
It's my face, but in character.
Yeah.
You know, it's like,
totally.
it's like my face with a particular outfit that is like for a particular purpose.
Totally.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's kind of the same thing.
Yeah.
So what does this box here say at the top? Go up a little bit. It says, I believe this is the primary cause of our childhood fascination with cartoons, though other factors such as universal identification, simplicity, and the childlike features of many cartoon characters also play a part. If you go down.
What do you think about the internet? I mean, people the anonymity. Do you think of it as anonymity? Some people think of people who, post with an avatar as hiding. But that's a kind of negative framing. But the positive framing is, can you say more what you said about allows you to let the audience, what was that?
I think like what happens is that like I think when someone sees your face, they see the face of another. Right. But when you start extracting things away, right? You're when you take out detail, when you remove detail, what happens is people stop seeing the face of another and they start seeing like the energy of the thing, the broad strokes of it. And I think part of that is like hiding, right? But I guess like part of it, you could look at it as like hiding, but I actually think that there's some quote about this where it's like there's some films, right? Like when you're working on a film or you're telling a story, sometimes it can get at the heart of what is true, even though everything in the thing is not actually true. Actually, if you relay the facts exactly as it is, people don't understand the meaning of the story. They don't get at it, right? But they don't understand the truth. But you could like abstract details from the story, tell it in this like way, and then they could really understand what that moment meant, right? Yeah. And so I think like, that's what I mean, where it's like it creates more space for the audience to project themselves into the story, versus I think when there's like too much details, when something is too factual, then what happens is it's difficult to project yourself into the story because it becomes this other thing, this thing that is like, it's so specific that it's not you.
There was a thing written by, I believe, Umberto Eco about fame and imperfection.
Yeah.
I don't know what I would even Google for that, but it's about why certain artists become really famous and have big fan bases. Star Trek, Star Wars, One Direction, Taylor Swift, and other things are very revered and very lauded, but you don't see people like dressing up for Citizen Kane. You don't see people dressing up like Adele. Adele is very famous, but Adele's fans aren't like freaking out in the way that One Direction and Taylor Swift fans are, even though we could look at that and be like, yeah, those are both amazing artists. And what is that? What is that? And this essay, which I wonder if we can, I don't know, Robbie, if there's a way to Google something about, not books, he has many books, but it's something about, I don't know. Mass culture. I don't know. We can find it's something else. Anyway, I'll need to find what the thing is, but he touched on the importance of kind of imperfection as the root cause of that. It's like there's some sense in which you can be Taylor Swift because Taylor Swift has the appearance of just being just a girl or something like that. Or if you look at some of these shows, they're imperfect in very particular ways. And it is in their imperfections that they become something you can identify with as more than just a detached fan. Whereas an artist, I'm using these examples, these are not his examples, but an artist like Adele or something, it's like, she's so good. It's like too good. It's like too perfect or something like that. So I don't think that is the, maybe that's a different thing. But anyway, but this feels like a similar kind of thing of like being able to relate something. You're not quite talking about the imperfections of it, but you're talking about the de-association of the thing with the person. And so but I think there's something about the imperfections that allows you to see yourself in the thing. Totally. It's like, oh, I could be that. Something about that could be me. Oh, there we go. Thank you.
Let's see. Go down to the conclusion.
It's basically the thing about this thing is that things that acquire big fan bases or big cults or big things are always imperfect in some meaningful way.
Really?
Where'd you go? Where'd the essay go? It was really good.
Yeah, let's read the conclusion.
Can we go to the bottom of that? I don't know if the conclusion will be satisfying in the way we want it to be, but
let's see right here. The same thing happened in Casablanca. Go up a bit. on a lesser scale. Go. There are traces of a work by which we know indirectly from other sources, in which the motive was only that of revenge, and the delay in taking revenge was caused only by the problem of assassinating a monarch surrounded by guards.
I think this is about Hamlet.
Yeah.
I think we've missed some context here.
Moreover, Hamlet's madness is feigned, the aim being to avert suspicion. In Shakespeare's definitive drama, the delayed vengeance is not explained, with the exception of Hamlet's continuous doubts, and the effect of his madness is not to lull, but to arouse the king's suspicion. Shakespeare's Hamlet also deals with the effect of a mother's guilt on the son, but Shakespeare was unable to impose this motif upon the material of the old drama, and the modification is not sufficiently complete to be convincing. In several ways, the play is puzzling, disquieting, as none of the others is. Shakespeare left in unnecessary and incongruent scenes that ought to have been spotted on even the atheist revision. Then, there are unexplained scenes that would seem to derive from a reworking of Kidd's original play, perhaps by Chapman. In conclusion, Hamlet is a stratification of motifs that have not merged and represents the efforts of different authors where each one put his hand to the work of his predecessor. So far from being Shakespeare's masterpiece, the play is an artistic failure. Both workmanship and thought are in an unstable condition, and possibly more people have thought Hamlet a work of art because they found it interesting than have found it interesting because it is a work of art. It is the Mona Lisa of literature. When all of the archetypes shamelessly burst in, we plumb Homeric depths. 2 cliches are laughable. 100 cliches are affecting, because we become obscurely aware that the cliches are talking to one another and holding a get-together. As the height of suffering meets sensuality, and the height of depravity verges on the mystical energy, the height of banality lets us glimpse a hint of the sublime. Whew. Yeah, man.
Good stuff.
Yeah, like I think like things are really cool when when there's these two opposing forces that are in tension with each other.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I think that's, again, this kind of like undescribable middle ground. I think that's when you can tell that things are working.
Mm-hmm.
And so, yeah. If you go back to that cartoon thing for a second, if you still got it, there was another thing that he kind of expands on that idea too of like the audience. If you go down, the cartoon is a vacuum into which our identity and awarenesses are pulled in an empty shell that we inhabit, which enables us to travel into another realm. We don't just observe the cartoon, we become it. Mm-hmm. That's why I decided to draw myself in such a simple style. Would you have listened to me if I looked like this? Mm-hmm. So that's kind of why I have the Musashi profile picture.
Yeah. That's great. Well, but that's an even other level, because you could have had your face. I mean, this cartoonist is saying he draws his own face with this kind of, right? But you're going a step even further, which is like you are using the representation, the likeness of another as your own.
Kind of, yeah. I'm not sure how many people know where this is from, like in terms of who followed me. And it's like what I have is like just that face where he's like bandaged.
Yeah.
And so what I was doing was, when I started using Twitter, I was like, okay, I need this. I just kind of was like operating based on intuition, right? So I was like, okay, so I need this character. So this character's got to like, he has to like go around and roam.
Yeah.
Like he's an archetype, right? It's a samurai archetype. It's like this Ronin wandering person. And so he needs a reason to roam.
Right.
And so I picked an image with like his bandaged face and stuff like that to suggest that something had happened to him. Like he had seen things. He was like, he has tried other things. He has had other experiences, and now he's on this mission.
Is there a kind of liberation to tweeting behind the mask of this character? You know, it's like people go to costume parties and they feel like they can do whatever they want because it's like not you. It's you're wearing a mask, you know?
Yeah, I think what happens is like, so I play with identity a lot. So I think that it's like, for me, identity is like, or like an alter ego is like a precursor to doing a specific kind of work. So I have like different ones.
Do they have
like
names?
Slinger Val. Yeah.
Like who?
Slinger Val.
What's that?
It's just another one that I keep.
Is that that's just a
Yeah,
name
just
of
I save it for something. Yeah, he has like characteristics and stuff like that.
What is that? Slinger Val?
Yeah.
What does that mean?
I don't know. I don't fucking know.
But that's like internet Vin.
Yeah. So it's like different characters that have like different personas have different characteristics, and then that allows me to go into different spaces and do different kinds of work, because I think the way you make things and the way you think about things is very much determined by how you perceive yourself and your identity.
Right.
And it's kind of like this box that you operate in. So when I want to like change the kind of output that I'm creating, then I change my relationship with my identity.
Yes.
Right? It changes what's possible.
When did you come up with internet Vin?
I don't remember. It was just kind of a random thing. I didn't think it would be as sticky as it was.
It's very sticky.
Yeah. I didn't think it would be this sticky.
Yeah.
Because it's like, it was kind of just functional, I think.
Right.
Just putting internet in front of
the
name, you know? But yeah.
Something about it works more than it should, or something like.
It's weird. Yeah. I don't know why it's so sticky, you know? But yeah, it definitely, it seems to resonate with people. But yeah, Slinger Val is another one. There's V is another one. I'll probably come up with more as I like need to. But yeah, you have like these certain people, like let's say you're making a film, or let's say you want to write a book or like make a piece of software.
Yeah.
Right. You have these certain people that represent a certain way of approaching that craft, a certain way of approaching it. Like, for example, for some people in terms of their relationship with travel and food and exploring the world, like Anthony Bourdain is an example of someone that is like a model person, right? That you can like look up to. You know, maybe a computer programmer looks up to someone like John Carmack, right? And like, so I think when you look at these people, I have a lot of those personal references. Musicians I like, filmmakers I like. I don't know these people, right? I don't know anything about them really. But they represent something to me. They represent a way of living and approaching something, right? And I think that if you can start to kind of like operate in that way, if you start to let yourself believe that you're kind of like that person, you know, and whatever it is that you need for yourself to do that. Like if you're like, oh, I wish I could like make movies like David Lynch. It's like, well, what happens if you start living like David Lynch a little bit? You know, what's his routine like? Does he meditate a lot? Well, okay. So what happens if you dedicate 1 month to like meditating a lot? How does that change? In a little way, you move more in that direction, right? Then how does that change your work? How does that change your thoughts? You know? And so I try to pull from all of these like different people and like integrate it into like my own style. And to solidify that, sometimes I have to work outside the context of like my own identity, because I put too many limits on myself. I have too many preconceived ideas of what it is that I can and can't do, when the reality of the situation is that I can do anything that I want. There's no limit. I don't know the limit of what I can and can't do. The whole point of doing all this stuff is to understand what that limit is, to discover it for myself. And so sometimes like a way of exploring that is just tricking my brain and to stop limiting myself, you know? And this is I like this about the internet, where you can really play with identity a lot on the internet, because you can construct these profiles and you could feel it, right? It's like, you know, everyone has had that experience where they make that profile photo change. It's like a big deal, you know? And I think the reason is because you're kind of switching your identity away. You're updating your identity in a little way. And it's very powerful. It's a useful creative tool. Yeah.
And what about this? This is very unmasked.
This?
Yes.
Yeah, I think like with something like this, I think it goes back to like seeing your research paper and then seeing the way that you synthesize and present it. There's always like these two sides, right? One is like, you know, this distilled, like even in that cartoon that we saw where he shows like a simple cartoon and then a detailed image, he has the capacity to draw the detailed image, right? And he knows the limitations of that detailed image. And then so he abstracts it out. The detailed image also has benefits There's times where that makes sense, right? And so, I look at something like Twitter and I look at that medium. It's like this massive group chat. It's this massive internet group chat. And that the internet group chat is like, it's an informal, casual place. It's a place where it's like you can crack jokes, you can flex on your fundamental understanding in a unique way, signaling to the people who are really paying attention and who see the world in a similar way as you do. You're speaking in code on that app, right? You're speaking through noise. You're trying to somehow communicate that you have signal. Mm-hmm. In this format, has a different functional purpose. I think an audience wants something different from something like this, and what they want is detail. Right? They want to know, okay, I believe that there's fundamental thinking. I believe that you have to ask questions and look at your environment and try to understand it and learn from different perspectives. And so this is literally that process, and it's a different character, Yeah. And so, this is the groundwork, right? And then from here, I can take the different things, and as my fundamental understanding of a subject grows, as I start to understand things, as I start to build conviction, or if I get ideas for experiments, I go and I do those experiments. Maybe I try them in different ways, in different types of abstractions, in different mediums, and I see how the world responds to them, and then I pull in that data as well, and see how that matches against my understanding and my core convictions, and it starts to build up into like this process starts to build up into like whatever my next project is. And then I ship the next project, and then the work begins again. Mm-hmm. Right? Where you sit down, start talking to people again. I've been doing this process for a long time. This podcast was originally was walks. Mm-hmm. Right? And so I would just like go on walks with people. I'd be like, yo, how do you think like this? How did you think of it like this? Why is that? What is this? I don't know why.
But was that a new thing? You didn't walk around with people, talk to them about, but you were like intentionally walking.
I know. For years. Yeah. Mm. Yeah. I would just walk around and talk to people. All my meetings were walks. Yeah. Always. And I would just like walk and ask people questions like, oh, why do you do this? Why do you see the world this way? Why? Like 2-3 hour walks. I just thought it was normal. Just because you need to soak in like if you meet someone and they captures your interest in some way, you got to soak in that energy. You got to like really like sit with like, what is it? There's some instinct that you have that this person has captured your attention in some way. It's like you subconsciously you're picking up on something. Yeah. So if you sit down or if you go on a walk with people and you just ask them questions and you try to understand, you start to realize, oh, like this is what you subconsciously identified.
Right.
And so, there's something about that process that's really important, right? Like we're sitting here right now, we've been talking for hours, right? And like I think people could look at that and think like, oh, what the fuck? They're just sitting around talking. But it's like, there's something else happening. It's like I find from these conversations, you evolve very quickly. Mm. Right? Because, so much of like, for me, maybe life is not the right word, but I think it is. Like for me, so much of life is figuring out what the right thing is to do. Mm. Right? In like this in this world of overwhelming information and input, distractions and emotions and feelings, you have to somehow find the right thing to do. Not just the right thing that's like not universally the right thing to do, but the right thing for yourself, right? Which requires understanding different things, asking questions and learning about yourself. And for me, that's a really important thing, because once I see what the right thing is to do, then you can, then you just go and you do it. Yeah. And so,
So the bottleneck is like knowing what is worth doing.
Yeah. Knowing what is worth doing is the hardest part.
This is what you're describing is like the very inefficient process we spoke about at the beginning of like going for 3-hour walks, right? Totally. It's like, that's where the real learning's at. It's very material. It's very IRL.
Yeah.
It's very embodied. It's very physical. It's not particularly summarizable. You can't read the description of those conversations and then feel like you got,
No.
People are like asking AI to summarize books for them as though they've now read the book, It's not very summarizable, but it's like you are slowly, through means that you don't even understand, gaining conviction and gaining ideas through conversations over the course of years.
Yes.
That lead you in some direction.
Totally.
And then once it hits, I presume the execution happens pretty fast.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Then I'm all in. Then you just like
you
pick
just do
up you pick up the pieces and just make it happen. That part's easy.
Yeah.
Yeah, but figuring out the right thing, that part mostly just requires courage. But like figuring out the right thing to do is, it takes a while. But the other interesting thing is when you framed it up in that way of this is the part of the process that you kind of have to do, or it's the part of the process that leads to like good work. I think what's interesting is that I wasn't aware, like as I'm having these conversations, I'm not necessarily aware of the fact that this is odd. If that makes sense. Okay. It's just like this is like necessary.
Sure.
Right? It's just you have to, I don't know, you have to, I don't understand. I don't really understand what other approach there is.
Well, okay. For example, what do you feel like is different between you doing this and you reading all of my work on the internet? Everything I've written is freely available to you.
Yes.
My thesis on the history of AI is freely available to you, as are my research papers. What would you get from me in real life that you can't get from the written record?
I think it's the ability to see how you react to my questions. Right? It's like, it's, I could ask you, it's hard to explain. It's like, there's like a quote, right? Where it's like, once you like the way you do something, the way you do one thing is the way you do everything or something. Have you heard something like that?
Yeah.
So I think like, let's say like you got really into like making ramen noodles.
Sure.
I can kind of predict how that's going to go down. Right. And I think like you can kind of like perceive that through like reading someone's work on the internet. You can imagine that if you're if you're in the right mental state, you could kind of like step back and be like, oh, if he's writing this way about this AI computational technique, then imagine how he makes a grilled cheese sandwich.
Sure.
Right. But
I made a thing of ramen yesterday.
Yeah.
Mi goreng. You know that one?
No, pull it up.
Dude. Mi goreng. This stuff goes crazy.
See what I mean though?
Look at this stuff. This thing on the left, can I tell you something? This is my bread and butter.
Indomie?
Yeah. It's so good. I made a little plate of that yesterday.
Damn.
It hit nice. Little tofu in there. I put tofu, broccoli, egg. Come on now. This thing right here, get yourself, I don't even know what the heck that container is. That's an unusual container. But you just get the 5-pack of these, no frills.
Shit.
Really good. My favorite instant noodle, without question.
Damn, I got to try that one.
What's your favorite?
I'm a golden curry boy.
Yeah, that's good stuff.
S&B Foods Inc.
That's good freaking stuff. That's nice.
Extra hot.
Let me ask you something. Mm-hmm. You're very interested in food.
Yeah.
Sell me on being interested in food as an art form. Because I can tell you're not just interested in it as a kind of, it's nice to eat.
Yeah.
But it's very creative. It's very continuous with film storytelling for you.
Yeah.
What's that about?
I think there's a couple of reasons why I think it's interesting.
Okay.
The first is that I think that it's like, Canada had V1 culture.
Okay.
Shaking your head like what?
Oh,
so
okay.
Canada had like V1 culture, and that culture was like ice hockey, beavers,
I got you.
poutines,
yeah. Sure,
all stuff I like.
Yeah, for sure.
Way, right?
100%. Beaver
I get
tails.
excited when I see a fucking beaver in the lake.
Yeah.
And then we had like V2.
Okay.
Of Canadian culture.
Okay.
And V2 of Canadian culture was like the immigrants coming in, the plazas,
Right.
All is shared restaurants, like all these different cultures all together. The fact that you can just walk into any plaza and get like a 8 out of 10 meal. You don't even need to fucking read the Google Maps reviews. You
100%.
just walk in, you just go eeny, meeny,
The Google
miny,
Maps
mo.
are an anti-signal.
Yeah.
The real people aren't writing Google Maps reviews. Let me tell you that much.
Maybe not. But you could just walk into a plaza and you just like, you just go into a restaurant. It's gonna be like a very good meal.
Yeah.
Like pretty much any plaza you go to, you can find a good meal there. And there was a lot of like that's just like such an important part of like Canadian culture, or at least in this area. And I know like I think like when I think the people in other areas of Canada that are not the Greater Toronto Area maybe think that we think this area is like the whole country or something. Sure. And I know it's not, but I think it doesn't matter, because I still think it's amazing, and I still think on a country level like everyone should know about this and like how awesome it is. I think it's a huge national achievement. But that culture and that story, in my opinion, hasn't ever been like properly like told. Okay. And there's been some efforts on that guard, but it doesn't like bang. Right. It's like, so you have this like V2 culture of Canadian culture that existed for a while, a long time.
Yes. But these plazas aren't new. These plazas have been around a minute.
Yeah. Ridgeway Plaza, by the way, I heard in Mississauga has 1,100 units.
We got to do, can I tell you something? Let me just put something on the table right now. One of these days, we're going to combine our talents.
Yeah, we'd love to.
And we're going to do a little tour of various plazas.
For sure.
Around the GTA.
This one, I have a hookup if we ever need it.
We'll talk about the history. We'll do a little history tour.
1,100 units in this, man. It's pretty nuts. But this whole story, right, of these plazas and this culture and everything, it hasn't, in my opinion, it hasn't been told. Right. It hasn't been effectively integrated into Canadian culture. Yeah. Right? And so what happened was you have Canadian V1 culture, and then we went to Canadian V2, but we never updated the symbols and the visual language and the narratives. We never updated them.
Is Drake like the closest thing that we have at the national integrated level into that?
And he did a lot, and so did The Weeknd and other artists, right? Yeah. And many other artists, right? Yeah. Even before them. Yeah. But we need like way more, because there's still like some things that I say that are controversial, right? But they're not like controversial pieces of information. For example, like Toronto having some of the best food in the world. That the idea that maybe even Toronto's food could rival New York City. I was talking to somebody who came from who was like in New Jersey, and I asked him about what he thinks about like Toronto food relative to New York City, and he's like, it's even. And I would say like the day-to-day meals in Toronto that you can get, that you just walk into a plaza and you can have like a banger meal. Yeah. It's like on the day-to-day, the baseline food you eat as an average citizen, I'd say is better than New York City. But at the highest levels, I would say New York City is better. Right. Right. And I've talked to chefs about this too. And they've said the same thing. Right. But that's mad controversial.
Is it?
Yeah. It's like, no, like, it's like go to somewhere, go to anywhere in the world and ask them where do they think the food is better? Yeah. Toronto or New York City? Yeah. And they're going to fucking say New York City. For sure. Actually, they won't even think that there's any good food in Toronto. Right. That's insane. That's a huge storytelling issue.
Can you look up Plaza Pops? Plaza Pops. POPS stands for Publicly Owned Private Spaces. Sorry, Privately Owned Public Spaces. It's kind of an interesting idea of like, this is just like a kind of artistic community project to reclaim plaza parking lots as like a site for socializing. This idea of POPS means, privately owned public space, right? So like parking lots are a public space. They're like a park. Anyone can go there. You can just stand there if you want to and chill in your car or chill on a bench. But they're owned by a private entity, which is like a strip mall.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
If you go to Ridgeway Plaza at night, it's like being in fucking Bangkok.
For sure.
Have you been there?
I've not been to Ridgeway Plaza, but go to
YouTube. Just see if you can find it. It's like
these places like during Ramadan.
Largest food plaza in North America.
Unbelievable. There's a plaza near where I grew up in Thornhill, where the lights. It's a Persian plaza, and the lights on the front are just like extraordinary.
No, you gotta find a different one. Type in busy or something. It's probably be somebody complaining. They've gotten. I've heard because I was talking to actually somebody that owns a unit here, and he was giving me like the tea.
Is it open all night?
Yeah. So I was talking to this guy who owns a unit, and he gave me like the fucking lowdown.
Yeah.
And this plaza has like so many infractions.
Really?
Yeah.
What, it's illegal?
No, it's just I think they're just breaking so many rules, and like there's like so many like it's just so busy.
Yeah.
It's so busy. And everyone is so happy about it.
Yeah. It's incredible.
Yeah, because it's just rammed. 1,100 units, man. Like, how long would it take for you to eat at every restaurant there?
I think there's a kind of spatial and geographic. I actually think that part of what you're describing is very interrelated with the things you've been talking about the last 2 weeks with all the housing issues.
Oh, shit.
Uh-oh.
Police. Yeah, look at this. This is like fucking 15 countries.
It's electric out there.
It's fucking crazy, bro.
It's unreal. But I think part of what you're describing about the kind of not updating. Oh, wow. Fireworks over Ridgeway Plaza. Great.
It's become this crazy place where it's like this cultural thing. Holy shit. Look at that AI.
Oh, nice. Good job. Fireworks over Ridgeway Plaza. Lana Del Rey album title.
This guy looks fucking amped.
He's fired up to be at Ridgeway Plaza. Who wouldn't be?
Is it TikTok? It doesn't work.
Not working. What I was going to say is I feel like there's actually a very strong relationship between the conversations you've been having over the past couple of weeks about housing and the things you're saying about updating the shared narrative. Yeah. Because I think that a lot of the people you're describing kind of don't have access to both the physical spaces in terms of where they can live and the like shared institutions of sense making and narrative building that ultimately govern like what the city is or is perceived as in our collective imagination. So it's like a lot of the culture that you're describing is not coming from the places of like traditional culture making in the, in the downtown core or like, in the neighborhoods where the wealthy older people who were like the, embodiers of some Canadian or Toronto culture of past generations would be, Margaret Atwood, who like defined in the collective imagination, what Toronto is because she wrote books about it, went a long way to like, shaping our collective imagination about the city of Toronto because it's all in her books. She lives in the annex on Admiral Road in a house that, the people going to Ridgeway Plaza have absolutely, and myself have absolutely no access to, or a concept of ever, affording to live. Totally. So like a lot of the people that you are describing as the kind of people pushing the forefront of culture, like innovating in very serious ways. And like actually for a vast majority of the people who are currently Torontonians, their concept of what Toronto is much more this V2, V3 version than any past version of Toronto, because 50% of the population of this city was not born in this country. And of the 50% who were born in this country, most of those people weren't born in this city.
Totally.
Those people do not think Toronto is Margaret Atwood's Toronto. And yet those people are still like at the epicenter geographically and conceptually. So it's like, how do we incorporate all of these Torontos?
Yeah. I think also you can look at like things like hip hop.
Right.
Right. And you look at it like,
hip hop is pretty effective.
Yeah. And also the way they told the story of their like boroughs and like, like Queens and Brooklyn and like, what Wu-Tang Clan did when they renamed Staten Island to Shaolin.
Let's go.
Like, I think that what that shows is that you have the capacity to, even like what Drake did too, right?
For sure.
You have the capacity to, by changing the form of communication, you can like illuminate a world and build a world in a way that is different and more compelling.
Yeah.
And I think the problem with the V2 thing, this might be like a little bit of like a controversial take, but I think the problem with the V2 thing is like, I think that the V2 story was never like told and integrated, right?
Right.
Because the country is not futuristic. It's not visionary in the way that it needs to be. And so it didn't integrate, but now we're already in V3.
What's V3?
V3 is like, you have like, there's no like clear, there's no pride as to there's not enough pride as to like what makes this area great. And so when you don't have that pride and you don't have that appreciation of it, you don't have a sense of values, you don't have a stance.
Right.
And now you're going into V3 with no stance.
Right.
Right. And it's like, what the fuck are we doing? There's more people that are going to come in. You don't have like a clear stance as to like what is our culture, what is not our culture, what do we accept, what do we not accept, this kind of thing. And then you're just going into V3 now. Right. And now you have the problem where the narrative and the storytelling, it's because it's never transitioned from V2. We never properly celebrated the success of V2. And so now you have V1 culture with V3, with a V3 environment. And there's like a disconnect here.
Right.
Right. And so, when I'm saying, I get really frustrated by this, man, because, it really, really bothers me when I have to say, like, when you'll talk to people, and especially with like, they still talk about as if like there's segmentation, but based on the color of our skin or like based on our cultures, right? It just bothers me so much because I'm like, what the fuck are you talking about? It just goes back to like the direct experience. It's like you're talking about some things that you have in your head. But like on the QEW, I'm sorry, that's just not the reality of the situation. Or like in the plaza that you walk to, it's not the reality of the situation, right? The reality of the situation is that all the cultures are mixing, and you have the opportunity to learn from all of these different people and from all of these different cultures if you decide to do that. If you want to walk around blindly and pretend like none of this is happening, sure, but the reality is that it is. And I think that like it makes me sad that we're not building on a foundation where it's like, hey, this is our country. Our country is a country where people come in, and they come into this country from all around the world, and it's optimally designed for self-actualization. Because that's what I saw like before growing up, right? This is what I've seen. All of these plazas, the fact that I know about Vietnamese food, the fact that I've had food from like a Vietnamese mom or a South Indian mom, like all my friends, right?
Yeah, but let me ask you something.
Yeah.
Is food enough? I mean, food, are we good?
Yeah, just move the water.
Sorry? The water. Oh, water. Sorry.
I have two things I want to ask you or add in. The first is there's a great book called Imagining Toronto by an author named Amy Lavender Harris, where she goes through every depiction of the city of Toronto ever in literature and poetry. And so it's like, I feel like this is I feel like I almost want you to do this exercise, but for television and hip hop, the film, the mediums that you are most familiar with, because she's doing it in literature and poetry. But it's like, if you only ever read books about Toronto, what would you perceive Toronto as being based on the literature? One of the findings from this book is there are so many books about Toronto, way more than you would ever expect, but somehow they get kind of buried. Right? We don't really think about the great Toronto novels. There are some, In the Skin of a Lion, but it's not like a popular genre. It would be very interesting to see, like, if you only ever watched YouTube videos or clips that went viral, or like this video of this woman talking in the Toronto accent, if you left your mom's in the hood, like what people think about the Toronto accent as spread by Drake or other, people promulgating this kind of culture. That is a concept that a lot of people have internationally of what Toronto is, that we have our own, mode of speaking. But it's almost like imagining Toronto V2, hip hop, television, turning red, edition of like what is the depiction of Toronto in that media? Because much of it does depict the Toronto that you are describing. Totally. Many of those music videos happen in plazas, plaza parking lots, right? And so it's like, but somehow it's not sticking. In the same way, honestly, what you are saying, these authors said too, namely the culture of, now I know you're talking about Canada writ large, not about Toronto specifically, but if we bring it back to the Toronto context, for generations, since Toronto has, been a kind of autonomous British city, people have talked about the kind of non-identity of this place. The things you're describing about Canadian culture, I wouldn't say are particularly Torontonian in that way. You're describing a lot about Toronto culture with the plazas and the multiculturalism, but even this distinction between what is Canada and what is Toronto, like what do we accept or not, I think is very interesting. But there's a sense in which that V2 culture that you're describing, much like this, Toronto V1 culture that's depicted in this book, it's not sticky enough because there's so much churn in like who is getting the message, right? Yeah. New people are coming in all the time and there's no handbook. There's no story, It's like there are a few places you can turn to just get the intro lesson. Mm-hmm. On like what is Toronto and how should you feel about it? What is Canada and how should you feel about it? Mm-hmm. I guess, part of that is I think a discomfort with grand narratives. Mm. Since World War II, there has been a really big discomfort with grand narratives because it's viewed as like, that's the participants in World War II are all very good at grand narratives about the purpose and meaning of their country. Mm-hmm. We've kind of moved into a more postmodern realm where it's like every person is on their own journey and every culture is on their own thing. And Canada has been a very, very welcoming place for a lot of those people and a lot of those cultures. And that is a narrative, right? That is a story. And I think food has played a big role in that. Like, I think that when you talk to people about what they think of Toronto as being, which I do at the start of all my walking tours, a lot of people say diversity in food, which is true. There is a lot of diversity in Toronto and a lot of food. I find that unsatisfying because it doesn't tell you anything about how you're supposed to be or how you're supposed to live. It's like, yes, I can try a lot of different cuisines and that's a way I could orient my life. Mm-hmm. But is that not a somewhat shallow way to orient my life, right? It's like there's something deeper than just eating Vietnamese food, which I do often, and I go and I lived in Koreatown and I get Korean food and I think it's amazing that I can get, and I can go to get Indian food and I can try food from all around the world and it's delicious and I love it. And that's not enough to build a city around, right? It's like New York City has great food, like you mentioned, but you don't move to New York to try all of the different cuisines. Mm-hmm. You do it to like become the person of your dreams. Mm-hmm. And so I wonder, how does food is like an entry into like a broader story, but like, what is that bigger thing? And how does it touch on the way you feel you're supposed to be in a city? Yeah. Or a country?
So one thing I'll say is that I think I agree with you about the non-identity element. Yeah. Right? But one thing I think that's missing is like, okay, cool. You can be in a state of discovery, which we obviously are, about what are we and what are we not. Yeah. Right. Like what matters and what doesn't matter. But I think one of the things we're really missing is that we don't have a stance. Like we already know some of the things that we are not, or that we will not stand for, or at least I do. Uh-huh. So for me, it's like, don't fuck with the plazas. Right. Like, don't fuck with the plazas. Right. Like if you're going to like build a building or you're going to do something, right? Yeah. Don't fuck with the plazas because people come here for the food. Right. What does that mean? Right. You can look at it and say like what that means is they come here because it represents that even though we live on a planet where the countries have been partitioned across, like these lines have been drawn. Yeah. The reality of the situation is that we're on like a floating rock barreling around space. Yeah. And if like the US bombs China, they're bombing the hull of their own ship. Right. That's the reality of the situation. And so what I like is that I think that idea that we're here and that that this place is diverse and that we can learn from all of these different cultures and we can pull from all of them. And I could be seeing someone's like, Filipino grandma and call her like my tita or something. And that's right, Javi? Yeah, right. The idea that I could like do that and like learn from that and learn from their culture, that's extremely valuable, right? And so for me, that's like my first, for me, I think that's like an important stance for the culture here to have, which is like, don't fuck with that element. That you're not allowed to. Like you cannot fuck with that element. And I think like we're moving in a direction where we are fucking with that element.
In what way? What does that mean?
In the way that like we have a broken system, right? Like in the sense like our system is not working. I talked about this before, like in a previous like podcast, but it's basically like the fundamental deal doesn't make any sense anymore. So you talked about this Margaret Atwood character who is like living in a house that most of us will never be able to afford, or like most people. It doesn't matter if it's her. I'm just saying there could be like anyone, right? And so so you're bringing in more and more immigrants into a system that is not working for the people that are already here. And so what that does is it puts more load on the existing system, right? And then if people can get into a state where instead of looking at the system and blaming the system and keeping their attention on the system, they start blaming the people that are coming in. But that doesn't make any sense, right? You have to look at the fundamental system. And so if it was up to me, that's what I mean when don't fuck with the plazas, right? You don't do that here because we already know that works and we already know that that's great. If you look at that and you think it's not great, if you think it's not a great achievement, then me and you will probably not get along, right? Because I look at that and I think it's an incredible achievement.
Who do you view as the people who you don't like? Who are the people denigrating the plazas?
I think it's just like when you're on Twitter and stuff like that. I think it's like a small number of people, right? But people just be like, fuck brown people or like fucking Indian people or whatever, right? It's like it's like any race. It doesn't even.
So
have
you're
to
using the plazas as a kind of metonym stand-in for the like people who think that the people in the plazas do not belong here, or that does not represent Toronto's culture.
Yeah, or another way of saying it is like, don't dismiss how incredibly difficult it is for that plaza to exist.
Right.
Like if you walk around that plaza and you don't think it's an incredible achievement, you're out of your fucking mind.
Right.
Because there's so many, it's like the artificial intelligence diagram, right? It's like there's so many decisions and people that needed to fight and people that needed to take risks and go through things to a point where we can go in. You and me are from different backgrounds. And we can go have a good shawarma together, which is a food that's not native to either of our culture. And like, you know, and it's like you cannot dismiss the difficulty level of achieving that and the rarity of it. And so I think that's why I keep saying the plaza. I'm just trying to say in like this way where it's like, I'm saying like we look at plazas like whatever, it's a suburban thing, right? Like
it's one of our great achievements.
Yeah. But people don't look at that way. And that's also part of the problem. Right. And so that's why I kind of use that as a reference point. And then the reason why I think food is so important is because I think what happens is in like immigrant culture, it's like they always say like their thing is the best. You know, so it's like, man, like Indian food in India, it's the fucking best. You know, it's like not like here. And it's like Vietnamese food in Vietnam, man, it's different, you know? Like Lebanese food, Lebanon, man, it's like different. And like it's the best. And so that's what I've grown up. I have friends from all different culture. I've always hung out with lots of different immigrants. I'd eat at their house. They've always welcomed me in. And so this is the pattern that I've noticed. So in the same way they say that, I say the food in Mississauga is better than the food in Tokyo.
That's your culture.
Yeah. That's what I say. In the same way that they would say the food in it's like, man, I've never seen sushi better than in Tokyo. Like it's like, man, it's just on another level there. I believe it, bro. But just overall, the food, there's just no food like Mississauga, man. There's no food like Toronto. You know, like where am I gonna get?
It's a way of claiming legitimacy. It's like what would it take for mentioning these places to sound like you are saying something serious and real?
Which I am.
I know you are. I know you are. But you're doing that uphill. You know, like when you say New York City,
Yeah.
You don't have to do any work for people to think that what you're saying is legitimate.
Exactly.
But when you say Brampton,
yeah, exactly.
it's almost funny. Drake puts, Waterloo and Brampton in a song, and it's like Scarborough. And until he did it, it's not cool. And then he does it, and it's cool now.
Yeah. And it was pretty funny when I heard that.
That was very funny.
Yeah.
But it's kind of it's kind of legitimizing places, and art is kind of the only way to do this.
Yeah.
But
also once it's legitimized, to me, it becomes less interesting.
For sure.
Because then the challenge is gone.
Right. Of course.
Yeah.
Yeah. But the other thing about these places is like, these are big places. Like, I'm not joking, like a Peel region.
Yeah. It's huge.
Like, there are millions of people in the GTA and in Peel region.
Ontario's like 4 Germanys.
100%.
Yeah.
So it's like, no, is Ontario 4 Germanys? No.
I think so.
No, are we sure about that? Can we look that up? Can we get a fact check on
it?
it?
4 Frances.
I don't know.
Maybe I'm wrong. But
the population of Canada is quite small.
Yeah.
14 million. I don't know. I don't know.
You'd have to ask it. America or some other thing.
Yeah, no. The Ontario, I think.
Not you're going by population.
You mean size?
Oh, I thought, I meant by landmass.
I was like, I think there are at least 4 Ontarios in Germany.
No.
You mean physically?
Yeah.
I mean, it's huge.
Sorry.
But also, there's tons of people. There's like 1 million people in Mississauga.
Yeah.
Like, that's no joke. I mean, what you're saying about the boroughs of New York City, each of those places,
incredible storytelling.
Extraordinary storytelling, and they have distinctive identities.
Totally.
And like, it means something to be from Queens.
Totally.
Because not just because you're from Queens, but because like, I don't know, to be from the Marcy projects in Brooklyn means something. And it's like, if you can, and it's like, 1.4 million people in Peel region. I just want to give a shout out to the 1.4 million people living in Peel region. We see you and we value you. It's huge. It's huge.
And so, I think that's why I'm like so interested in food, because I think that another thing that's really interesting is that because I think the biggest benefit of living in the Greater Toronto Area is that you're exposed to all these different cultures. I think then I want to maximize my self-actualization as a result of that. So I want to understand anything I can about like Jewish culture.
Sure.
I want to be more Chinese.
Sure.
I want to be more Vietnamese. I want to be more Filipino.
Right.
I want to be eating sisig.
Yeah.
I want to be more Lebanese. Right. And so
I try to be more Lebanese every day.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So like I think that I think when you, that's the interesting thing about food as well, is it's this universally accepted art form, right? Like, if you look at something like kimchi, like the way that like a Korean family like makes, it's like really important dish to them, and by understanding how it's made and maybe by being able to make it yourself, you start to understand a lot of like what matters to that culture, perhaps.
For sure.
And it's a way of like showing respect to that culture. And so I think the food is very interesting because it's this universal experience we have. It's this universal fascination we have with it. And so I don't necessarily think the diversification or the differentiator of Toronto is like its food. I don't think that's the angle. I think the way I see it is that the angle into understanding, in the same way someone might look at like the topology of Toronto as a way of understanding its like what it is on a fundamental level. In that sense, I look at the food that way. Right? Yeah. I look at the food because I'm trying to understand what matters to these cultures. Like how, what does it mean? What does it mean that all of these cultures are coexisting?
Right.
What does that mean?
Yeah.
Why do I feel that is so important? Why is it that has given me so much value in my life to go over to my friend's house when I was a kid who's like Vietnamese and seeing their family doing karaoke and seeing that, oh shit, like our family does karaoke too. She's like, what does that mean? It means something to me. The smell of the houses, the different houses that I went to, all different cultures, the smell of it.
Yeah.
The moms, all of the moms were loving. The way it felt when I'd sit at the table and then the mom, a mom from a different culture would would serve food and the way she served food. It's just, every time I went over to a friend's house for dinner, like when I was in high school or like junior high, and I would sit at the table, it was always such a meaningful moment because I was maybe in like, let's say like grade 8, something like that, grade 9, grade 10. And it's a special moment because this parents, their kid is inviting one of their friends over for dinner. And this kid has grown up. He used to be a baby. He's grown up. His parents have like raised this child and into someone that's becoming an adult. And this young person is saying, "This is my friend. I want to invite them into the home." Mm-hmm. And it's this act of like ownership that this kid is taking. Before, at one point, this kid didn't have ownership. It was a baby. And so it's just, you could feel that, like to be invited into those environments, right? And to see the different cultures. Sometimes parents can't even speak English, but they understand the moment that this is somebody that I trust. This is somebody that is my friend. And though he doesn't look like us, he's my friend. Mm-hmm. And it was very special to me because, you know, you have like these parents maybe that in some cases they were just like, you know, European, like whatever, right? But in some cases they weren't. In all cases it was very meaningful to me. But it's just really cool to be invited into those environments and to sit at the table, and then the food is served and they're very intentional because there's a level of like trust and safety. Like I'm still a kid sitting at the table. So the mom has to make sure, like it's her responsibility, not mom, the parent's responsibility in a way to like make sure, oh, this kid's eat. So they prepare a meal, they put a level of intentionality in it. There's so much trust. Will I like the flavors? Can I handle it? Can I not? How do I process new information? Am I open-minded? Right? Am I closed-minded? Right? Am I open to new flavors? Can I try new, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Some people on my tours have talked about how they feel that Toronto is very diverse for young people.
Yeah.
It's very diverse kind of on the aggregate.
Yeah.
If you look at the just macro, there's a lot of different people. There's a diversity. You can interact with any race or background or cuisine you want. But it's very pocketed. Mm-hmm. People are fairly siloed within their respective cultural groups. And a lot of people who move here as adults, I think, find it very hard to integrate. Mm-hmm. You grew up here. Mm-hmm. I grew up in the suburbs. And so like my suburban high school was very Persian, for example. Mm-hmm. It's like I met all those people and I, you know, can identify part of the language and the culture, and that's great. You can't do it as an adult. If you move to Toronto later in life, mm-hmm. you can't just go... part of the experience you're describing is so canonically a childhood experience.
Totally.
And I think many people feel that Toronto is actually quite siloed, discriminating, and barriered for adults, mm-hmm. but extremely diverse and integrated for children, mm-hmm. which I find interesting. Part of the thesis about Toronto and the GTA that I'm working on is that this has in many ways been not necessarily a safe haven, but a kind of refuge for so many different ethnic groups and cultural groups over the years. From like we were talking about the Irish very early on, mm-hmm. coming here, you know, the Italians and the Greeks and the Portuguese and the Jews and Chinese immigrants, in the kind of early waves of immigration to the city. You know, those people all live together in the ward, this like super almost slum-like downtown conditions. But then when the ward was destroyed, many of those groups moved all around the city to different places. So we have Little Portugal and Little Italy and Chinatown. I mean, there was another Chinatown where Nathan Phillips Square is now. Mm-hmm. And that Chinatown was expropriated, bought up by the city. They built Nathan Phillips Square. All those people had to move to other places. That's why there's two Chinatowns. There's an East Chinatown on like Broadview and Gerrard, and there's another Chinatown on Spadina.
Oh, that's why.
Greektown, you know, the Jewish people lived in Kensington, and then they've been, you know, migrating up Bathurst for several generations, et cetera, et cetera. There's, you know, there's a little India on like very, very far east. So, you know, there are all these like kind of ethnic conclaves and pockets. But I do feel that some amount of the structure, of the shape of the city is made up of all these amazing groups who by and large keep themselves.
Yeah.
You know, and that's not just true of these kind of like racial and ethnic groups, but I think also socially, Toronto's an amazing city to like, you find your friend group and then you kind of, and then you know, close it off. People who move to Toronto can find that it can be difficult to integrate socially with other people, because there is this kind of, you find your little pocket and then you close off.
Yeah, I don't want to be like that.
I know you don't.
And
I wonder what the relationship is between that kind of structural, systematic, the way the patterns of immigration have worked here.
Yeah. I think that culture has to change.
Is that part of this V2 thing?
Yeah, I think what happened is like, we're not onboarding people correctly. We don't have a stance.
Right.
And so what happens is when you don't have a stance, what they move towards whatever stance is, you know, their thing, like whatever they're coming with originally.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's no stance. There's no like encouraging thing to say that, hey, like, you know.
What would that look like to you? I know what it looks like to me. I'm teaching a course about the history of Toronto, mostly to people who are not born here. Yeah. So like my version of that is, we're going to sit down in a classroom, read books, read texts, and like understand this place at what I think of as the fundamental level by like studying history, studying a lot of the stuff that we haven't even talked about, any of the things we came here to talk about today. But that's my version of like, because I feel the same way of like, what are the introductory texts? You know, like what, like this is my version of like giving people the thing that they can latch onto just to have some kind of story. What would your version of that be?
I think my version of it is like, right now I'm just trying to understand it for myself, understand like what about the area matters. And I think this idea that you can learn from other cultures and that can accelerate your progress as a human being, I think is important.
Yeah.
Is an important idea.
Yeah.
I think the idea that you can only accelerate by closing off and protecting the values you already have is not what it's about. It's about, you know, we should, it's already happens, but I wish it was celebrated more. But when you meet somebody that, like if I say something like Vietnamese to a Vietnamese person and I really nail it and say something funny, like they will fucking love that. They will love it. Right? Because it's like, I don't know what it is. It's like, you know, like, you know what I mean? Even if you swear in a different language,
sure.
It's just like, and it's the other person's language. It's so funny.
Yeah.
It's so funny when like other people know all these like words and like this random thing, like Robbie's laughing because I say like, I'm saying like sisig because it's like this random Filipino dish. Right. But it's like, oh damn, like this guy's eating sisig. That's crazy. Like I didn't, you know what I mean? And I love finding those, like those gems. And I think that, yeah, I think our culture needs to be, it needs to somehow like make that concrete. This idea that you come here and you learn from these other cultures and you integrate them. It's not a time to, this isn't a place to come to silo off. It's a place to come to learn, to understand, and to contribute. This is a new country. This is a country that needs to develop a lot more, right? It's a country that, this is a startup. We cannot be acting both small and big at the same time. It doesn't make any fucking sense, right? This is a startup, right? This is a country that has a unique chance to be greater than any other country has ever been. This environment, this landscape here should be optimized in the best possible way. It should be designed extremely well, better than any other place in the world. Why? Because people from all over the world are coming here and they know what their other countries are like. So tell us the best shit. Tell us the best fucking spices, man. Tell us how to salt this thing. Tell us the way to build a building. We should have the best of everything. That's the point, right? We should take the best of everything and integrate it. We should, like, it has to be better than the country that you came from, right? In every way, in every fucking way. And like, that's what I want. I would love to see like more of that. Right. So for me, if it was like my perspective, you know, that's what I would kind of like focus on. And it would be me just like walking around being like, hey, this is what I like love about Jewish people, man. Here's just like a random thing, you know. I went for dinner with this like Jewish family, so here's how they do this and here's how they do that. It's like, that's what mine would be. It would be like very specific artifacts. It's like, you know, just an overhead photo of like.
I think what you're describing is like highly necessary, but not sufficient.
Yeah. Why is it not sufficient?
I think that the rich cultural heritage that you're describing is like a totally essential fabric that makes up this city.
Yeah.
And is like not enough to have like coherent political priorities or something like that, right? Like when you're talking about the influence that these cultures can have over buildings, but it's like, well, what do we build?
Totally.
Like whose priorities and values take precedence in terms of understanding the kind of mass civic priorities? Because at the end of the day, like, is there an overarching vision? Like is there a collective project that everyone is involved in that is not just the project of understanding everyone else? Yes. Because the project of understanding that you're describing is like a beautiful vision. And then it's like, okay, then what do we do?
You apply that same way of thinking to every aspect. Right. So for example, in the context of like what to build, right? What you would do is you would take the understanding of like what governs something to build. It should be everyone should understand. In my opinion, like everyone should understand.
Well, it's like, let me ask you a different way.
Yeah.
What does this is not, I'm saying this mostly tongue in cheek.
Yeah.
What you're saying, where does it like, is that enough to get us somewhere on bike lanes? Do you know what I mean? Is that enough to get us somewhere on like car dependence? Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So the way I would see it get down, I would see it go down is in kind of like this way of thinking about it is that,
or housing policy, for example.
Yeah. For example, it should be, let's say bike lanes are important.
Yeah.
Let's say if bike lanes could have like a huge impact on the city.
Yeah.
Then I think that the general population should understand why that is.
Right.
In the same way when I'm saying like, hey, when I say like, oh, you should understand this culture and this culture, we should learn from each other. What I'm actually saying has nothing to do with like where people are from or like their culture. What I'm actually talking about is, as a culture, we should have a very high baseline standard for understanding our environment. And I'm expressing that way of viewing the world through, in that example, the plaza. But for example, with bike lanes, right? It's like, for me, it's like, I think there should be very clear articulations of and visions, whether it's from the government or whether it's from individuals, as to which bike lanes should be created or why bike lanes should exist, how they can map across all the city, what the intended effect of that could be, and if it's hard to build it, why? Even if it's saying, hey, it's hard because politics and this, and it's a clusterfuck and all this, explain that simply. These things should be like we should have we should care a lot about our environment, what happens and what doesn't happen. And so even when I say don't fuck with the plazas, I'm trying to say at a core level, let's decide to care about something. Because once you care about something, then there's like something to protect. And then you can process information relative to that. Right?
I need to go fairly soon.
Yeah.
But I wish we need to do this again.
Well, I mean, this was like 6 hours.
What was it? 4 hours? How are we doing?
How long?
3:45.
Pretty good.
3 hours and 45 minutes?
Yeah.
It's not bad.
We could do so much more because I haven't even told you the story about the Spadina Expressway. And I feel like, which is what I came here to talk about. But the thing is, I want to tell you the story of the Spadina Expressway because it has so much of what you want. This is a story about people who really cared. Really? Like this is a history story about two groups of people, both the people for and against this infrastructure project, both really, really, really care. And both went into the details and the fundamentals of like, why do we want this highway project? Why do we not want this highway project? What will it do to the shape of our city? it has a lot to do with what we were talking about. I was talking about earlier about the history of technology of like Toronto with a bunch of highways is a transformation. Yeah. Right. It's not the same as Toronto plus a highway. It's a new city entirely. And so it was discussing the merits of like, what do we want the future of the city to actually be? Is it, one where, the car is the primary mode of transit around the city, and the suburbanites who largely drive cars are the kind of leading vocal majority in the shape of what the city means to its people, or one where the downtowners, by and large, who use public transit, get to shape the political priorities. There's stories about it's a story about the relationship between Toronto and its suburbs, the voice that the suburbs, often more populous than the downtown core, get to have or not over what goes on in the downtown, the relationship between the city and the province and the country, the relationship between competing political priorities. But also,
I love this.
The thing that it has that is like these, look up some of the protests. If you look up Spadina Expressway protests, this is people really care. Look at this stuff. There we go. So
yeah, this is what I like.
This is people dressing. Go to the left one. We'll talk about this story in full later. This is a 2-hour story, but this is people dressing in like old timey Victorian clothes because these are the anti-highway activists. They're being accused of being Luddites. They're stuck in the past. So they're wearing these outfits to embrace the accusation that they're being stuck in the past. And they're like, oh, you're going to call us stuck in the past for not liking highways? So be it. This is a student protest at U of T. Stop expressways. Now, but then there were counter protests. So we need to go to the counter protests. Oh, look at that one right there. We need Spadina complete on the right side, underneath the existing photo. Middle. Yeah, there. We need Spadina complete, Stop the Marley Expressway. Go Spadina. Ditch Davis's dictator. So this is like
very Queens Park.
Very Queens Park in the ditch. We need to.
I like this energy too.
Good energy. This is the counter protest. They had dug a ditch. Can you look up pave the ditch? So now they started building this highway, but it got canceled by these anti-highway protesters. But then there was just this unpaved proto-highway that never got built because they started building it and then it got canceled. So then there was a counter protest called Pave the Ditch to actually build the part of the highway that started to be built but was never built because it wasn't complete. This entire story is like a 50-year story in our city's history that really continues to this day. Can you look up Esther? Oh, there it is right there. Oh, there it is. Pave the Ditch. There's a little Pave the Ditch protest. Yeah, blog TO. No.
First row.
There we go. So that's counter Spadina. The point is, you want people to care. You want people to care about the use of public space and feel deeply invested and like very personally accountable and hitting the streets to talk about what they care about. On all sides, the Spadina Expressway animated the city of Toronto in a pretty unique way. And it still looms very, very large. You want to talk about like V2, V1, V2 consciousness. This story looms extremely large. A lot of the housing issues that you've been talking about with people have a lot of relationship to the story of the Spadina Expressway in very interesting ways. Yeah, very, very close tie, because there's an aspect of the Spadina Expressway that is like anti-building. They don't want highways. And so people interpret that as like a NIMBYism of a kind. Yeah. Those very same people, some of them are pro-transit. So they want transit, where they would have built a highway. Those people are kind of an progressive urbanism growth, which is very pro-transit. Some of these people are just like, no, I want to protect my beautiful ravines in my beautiful neighborhood. Don't build anything through here. Those people are so there's out of this anti-Spadina Expressway movement comes both a very pro-building, pro-transit, pro-growth, but anti-car agenda and a anti-building, growth of all kinds agenda. Those two are now very opposed to each other ideologically. So many different ideas and ideologies come out of this debate over the Spadina Expressway, and it looms very large psychologically over the nature of our city. But anyway, hearing you talk about like people standing for something, people caring, I want, we now have to schedule something in the future where I talk for 3 hours about the Spadina Expressway because it's one of the most interesting stories in the history of our city.
Anytime. Listen, man, I think I might be your biggest fan.
I appreciate it. It's always fun. It's fun to talk to you. I'm glad I got to hear more of your ideas.
Yeah, I really appreciate everything you're doing. I think like it feels like there's like a few of us working on like just trying to understand things and then take whatever we're understanding and distilling it into like these projects and artifacts that are like really resonating with people. And I feel like no one's doing it better than you. So really appreciate everything. Appreciate your time and always love learning from you, man.
Likewise with you. I'd love to be back again.
There we go.
Whew.
Yeah, that was
I could do another 4 hours. I'm not